This man was named Li Yi. He is a seasoned interdimensional miner. His daily job is to wear a hazmat suit and risk his life mining energy stones in another dimension. One of his colleagues said that the current month wasn't bad, and at that pace, he'd be able to pay off his parents' debt in a year or so. They guy added that if Yi would work in another 3 to 5 years, he could even afford a small apartment. Yi simply replied that he'll keep working hard, but in his head, he cursed at this heartless capitalist. The moment he clears the debt, he'll leave at once. Working another 3 to 5 years? He wouldn't do that. In his mind, they should be the one. Exposure to radiation in the interdimensional zone gives normal people a 1 in 1,000 chance of awakening, but it's also fatal. If not for their own circumstances, no one would put on a hazmat suit and work in the other world. While they rode the vehicle, the two guys in front of Yi gossiped about him. They knew him as the guy whose parents died in an accident 3 years ago, and not only did he receive compensation, he was also forced into debt. One guy knew that back then, NG Corporation insisted that his parents caused a $1 million loss. He felt bad for the kid. The other guy replied that there's nothing to pity because it was the kid's fault, since he's weak. He added that if it was him, he'd fight to death to make the corporation pay up. The guy joked that he thought the man would make them pay for their lives. The man replied that there's no point since those people are already dead, so he might as well just make some cash. He heard it all, especially the part when they called him weak. In his mind, there are times that the person becomes weak not because of themselves, but because the world is insane. When everything was ready, it was time for them to work. They thought there was a cave-in when the ground shook. One guy called them out for screaming just because of a minor tremor, but the guy replied that he had never heard of earthquakes in other dimensions. Another guy added that he never heard of it either, despite being in a lot of zones already. They wondered if it was caused by monsters. They suggest not working there, especially when the place had interdimensional humanoids before. Those monsters are even tougher than the Bug and Beasts clans. They agreed to stop working since it's too dangerous. The guy in charge told them to shut up. He clarified that the area was cleared by an awakened one 3 years ago, so there's no way humanoids would appear. He threatened them that if they said another word, he'd do something. But he was stabbed before he could even finish his sentence. They were all surprised when the supervisor got hit. Our MC froze in place. The supervisor coughed blood. The interdimensional humanoid arrives. They ran as the interdimensional humanoids chased after them. A lot of them were already hit. Yi knew that they were over 10 kilometers from the exit. He doubted that they would really be able to escape. It was totally beyond their ability to handle. His colleague was thrown at him and hit his back. They both crashed into a boulder. Yi coughed from the pain. When he got up, the others started the car already. He begged them to take him with them, but the car drove away. An interdimensional humanoid jumped on the car, and its claws pierced through the ceiling. The driver and the passenger were taken away, and the truck overturned. Yi realized that the interdimensional humanoids went after the people in the truck. Eventually, the truck exploded. He was surprised. The interdimensional humanoids were caught in the explosion, and they screamed in pain. Yi realized that their weakness is fire. He saw some wood burning near him, and he thought that it was worth a try. One interdimensional humanoid attacked from the right. He immediately went for the burning wood. He grabbed it and waved it in front of the interdimensional humanoid, hoping that it would leave. And just as he thought, it hesitated to approach him. He told everyone that those creatures are afraid of fire. 10 years ago, mysterious gates suddenly appeared all over the world. Insectoids, beasts, and humanoids from other dimensions poured onto Earth through the gates. Only awakened advanced beings who had mutated through radiation had the power to fight these monsters. The appearance of advanced beings not only gave humanity the power to close the gates, it also opened a new era of exploration and development of otherworldly energy sources. But unfortunately, those miners aren't advanced beings. They were just ordinary people, and simply surviving in the world takes everything they have. Against the monsters from the gates, they don't even have the strength to run. They gathered as much flammable stuff as they could to ward off the interdimensional humanoids. One man was worried because the torch wouldn't last much longer. Yi suggested that there's gasoline in the storage room, and they might be able to use the fire to block the entrance until rescue arrives. They stood back to back, formed a circle, and retreated slowly. They were doing well as they approached the drums of gasoline. Once within reach, Yi yelled at them to quickly pour it at the entrance. They kicked the cans and threw their torches to light fire. The torch fell into the gasoline near the foot of an interdimensional humanoid. and that interdimensional humanoid got burned. An old man thanked Yi, because if not for him, they would be dead. Since he saved his life, they promised him that if he ever needs anything, they'll give it to him. Yi noticed something behind him. There was a large statue. The guy beside him shared that they found it a long time ago in the mine. He assumed that Supervisor Wang planned to smuggle it and sell it on the black market. That's why it was there. Yi replied that it looked like it had been around for years. Suddenly, a voice came through the radio. They were glad to hear from them. They reported that their sector, Sector 7, had been attacked by humanoids and urgently needed rescue. The headquarters confirmed their report and told them that rescue will arrive in approximately 2 hours. They begged for them to come sooner, but the line was cut off, and only static noise was left. They got worried since their suits only have enough energy for another hour and a half. Some of them expressed that they didn't want to die because they have a wife and kid waiting for him at home. One of them regretted not driving out even if only one makes it through. He thinks it's better than waiting to die. Yi checked his arm. He prayed for rescue to get there soon since his suit power is already low. One of their colleagues called everyone's attention and stated that since their suits won't last until rescue arrives, someone will have to make a sacrifice. And he suggested that it should be old folks and orphans. The man stated that Yi doesn't have attachments and was buried in debt, so he concluded that living was just suffering for him. Then he suggested that Yi just give up his suit battery. They hit him with a plank and dared him to fight back. Yi fell to his knees because of the pain. They dared him to resist. Then the man choked him while telling him that if he gets exposed to radiation, he'll awaken, so he was just giving him a helping hand. The other one added that if Yi awakens, he'll become their savior. Yi crawled to get his mask. He told them that if he awakens, the first person he'll kill is them. They mocked him for thinking that he would be lucky. They grabbed his battery. After with Yi, they called someone else to be the next one. A guy pushed the other two as a sacrifice. The two bullies chased after him when he tried to run away. He climbed on the truck. He yelled at them that if they died, they would die together. He started the truck and the statue and its lost balance, and it fell. They all chased after him to stop him, since if he breaks through the fire barrier at the entrance, they were all done for. They panicked when the guy broke through the entrance and the humanoid started coming in. Yi was left there on the ground. The statue fell in front of him. Our boy looked at the statue and asked if it was laughing. It was as if he was being mocked by it. Lo and behold, this statue really had this sinister grin on its face. And boy, oh boy, it reminded me of the statue from Solo Leveling. But a few seconds later, an interdimensional humanoid appeared and stepped on the statue. And it was about to grab Yi. Yi questioned why he had to endure it all. The hand of the humanoid pierces his torso. He thought of the times he was being ridiculed, like when his parents died, and the relatives didn't want to raise him, or the time he was thrown out of his house because he can't pay rent, or the debts were passed on to him. Some established people came to him and threatened him when he wanted to investigate his parents' death. The complaint letters that he sent out just ended up in the corporation's hands. He didn't want the compensation. Instead, he sought the truth. The man decided to give it to him. He was informed that his trash parents violated regulations and caused the accident. Not only are they not compensating, they sued him for the millions they cost the company. He closed his fist. The man kicked him in the face while telling him that he should have just signed the compensation agreement and taken tens of thousands, and none of that would have happened had he not insisted on the truth. The man was annoyed with him since he's now in charge of collecting his debt, which has $30,000 a month interest, and the principal amount should be paid in 3 years. He told Yi that he'll send someone on the 15th of each month, and if he doesn't have the money, he should expect them to treat him roughly. Yi looked pitiful, so the man told him that he'll give him a way out. He suggested that he becomes an interdimensional miner, since it's the only job where he might have a chance to repay his debt. Back to the present time, Yi stated that he's dead either way, so if he dies, he won't make it easy for them. He didn't mind that he's weak and refused to die quietly. He bit the monster with all his might. The interdimensional creature threw him away. As his consciousness fades away, he thinks of how disgusting the stench of the beast. A shadow figure stated that he thought Yi would unlock some kind of potential, but it turns out it was just pointless struggle before death. He replied that at least he did something unlike him, a statue crushed to pieces by that beast like it was nothing. The statue told him that he's the only one who can save him if he obediently hands over his body to him. Yi replied that he's not interested. He'd rather die than be controlled, especially by an ugly freak. The statue laughed out loud that he'd rather die than submit. He called Yi a fool for thinking that he had the right to refuse. The shadow system was activated. The interdimensional humanoid who attacked Yi was surprised. The shadow made it kneel. The statue had possessed Yi's body, and it was taking its revenge on the interdimensional humanoid that stepped on him. The giant shadowish creature stepped on it. At this point, our boy had been fully engulfed by the shadow armor. An interdimensional humanoid roared from behind it. He got annoyed that it was too noisy. A shadow appeared on the ground, and it swallowed the interdimensional humanoid. The next target was slashed. Yi really hated the disgusting smell of this beast. And as for the human trash, he binds them. They got scared of him. The statue was curious what Yi would do if he gave him his body back. They begged Yi to spare them. They reasoned that they were just trying to survive, and added that without them, Yi wouldn't have awakened. They uttered that they were a little harsh to awaken him. He asked if now he has to be thanking them all. Those men replied that there's no need to thank them and suggested that they pretend that nothing happened while he lets them free. Yi replied that not only will he let them go, he will also help them go out. He took their masks, which made those men cough blood. Once he was done with that, he approached the others. One of the guys reasoned that he didn't do anything. Unexpectedly, Yi gave them the batteries from the guys before. The statue whispered at Yi to put away his useless pity, because it will only get him killed. Yi told him to shut up since he doesn't need his preaching. The shadow challenges him to see if he's still that tough when he's on the brink of death. When he went out of the cave, he saw more humanoids. He didn't expect that there would be so many outside the cave. The shadow told him that he could hand over his body to him, or he could deal with the trash by himself. The shadow couldn't believe that his legs were already shaking from the simple rabble. The shadow reminded him that without his power, he was nothing. Yi jumped to avoid the attack while replying that he doesn't need his preaching. He kicked the claw of the humanoid. He noticed how light his body feels. The humanoid tried to slash him. While one of those creatures sneakily attacked from behind, he sensed it and was able to dodge in time. He could tell that his reflexes and speed have increased a lot. The statue was mocked when he already had the shadow system, but he's still weak and pathetic. Yi gathered energy on his fist and told him to shut up. The humanoid creature was blasted away when Yi punched it. He was confused when his power increased so much, but he also knew that just using his body to attack wasn't enough to hurt them. He wished he had a weapon. And as if on cue, shadows gathered on his palm. To his surprise, a dagger was formed out of the shadows. He used it to see if it was effective. He slashed it, and learned that he can kill hybrids too, which led him to think that he had awakened. A humanoid had landed a blow on his back. He immediately counterattacked and beheaded it. He was glad to finally have the power to fight back. Blood splattered on the ground. Yi laid there, breathing heavily. He killed all of those abnormalities. Then the system notified him that his evolution was successful. He is now at E rank. The next thing we know is that Yi lays on the hospital bed while the nurse and the doctor check on him. The nurse reported that he had no injuries at all, and all vitals are normal, so it was a puzzle why he hasn't woken up yet. The doctor replied that it's normal for an ascender, especially in Yi's case where his stamina is totally drained, so his body needed to adjust to the new level. The nurse got interested in Yi when she found out that he's an ascender. She asked what level he is. The doctor noticed how she got excited and replied that they'll find out when he wakes up. The doctor told her that they will go to the next room, but she wanted to stay a little bit longer to stare at him since she finds Yi handsome. Meanwhile, the shadow was bothered that what he possessed was a human, an E rank, no less. He expected that with his status and power, once Yi awakened, he should have been at least S rank or A rank, at worst, B rank. And yet Yi was stuck in an E rank shell. But still, he finds him interesting since, despite being an E rank, he actually triggered the power of the shadow system and formed a shadow on the first try. It was just too bad that he can't withstand a 10,000th of his power. Yi woke up and asked why he's clinging to him. The shadow informed this lowly human that he's the ancient Supreme Entropy Extinguisher's ruler of the otherworld realms. He commanded him to offer him his body, and once he reclaimed his throne from the traitors of his clan, he'll reward him generously. Yi thinks he's just making up stuff. He added that there's no way he'd give his body to something ugly like a cockroach. The shadow was insulted. Then he urged Yi to offer his body at once, since that's the only reason he exists. Yi wondered why it had latched onto him, of all people. He considered the possibility of it being an evil spirit possession. Or perhaps it was simply enamored by his beauty. Given the person's seemingly unstable demeanor, Yi knew better than to provoke him. At one point, He even feared the man might try to force himself on him, something he thought he could handle. What truly unsettled him, however, was not knowing the entity's gender. He had a lot more intrusive thoughts, and it started to annoy the shadow. The shadow asked him what kind of nonsense he was thinking. It regretted having to choose that E-rank human being. If the situation hadn't been urgent, it would have picked an old dog over an E-rank trash. The shadow told him that he has 3 days, and if he doesn't reach D-rank within 3 days, he'd erase him completely. Yi got confused because from what he knew, he was in a hospital, and yet this shadow threw him in a portal. The shadow told Yi that he's in the insect nest, the E-rank trial of his race inside the gate of the other world. He told him that every Skyborn clan member can only attempt it once after reaching adulthood, and since he possessed Yi, it refreshed his trial count. A shielded armor beetle appeared. Yi was surprised that he knew that species. The shadow informed him that the shadow system that he was given reads from his knowledge base. He expected him to get used to it eventually. Our boy thought about the shadow system. Then he took out his dagger and slashed through it. He was surprised at how fast he was. The beetle hissed angrily. Yi knew its blind spot and targeted it. He jumped high so he could hit the beetle's back. After that, he landed behind it. The beetle immediately counterattacked. Yi had to pierce his dagger on the ground to find his footing. He didn't expect that its shell would be hard. The shadow called him useless. Then it asked if Yi only had brute force. Yi replied that how he fights is none of his business. The shadow warned him not to come begging for help when he lost. Yi was starting to get annoyed. He wondered if the beetle really has any weak points. It deflected his attacks and blasted him away. He crashed on a wall. He noticed a sticky liquid on his shoulder. The shadow told him to get up. Yi saw that it was from the beetle's cut, and it was its blood. He grinned when he finally found its weakness. The beetle attacked aggressively. Yi was determined to show who's the real coward. The shadow was surprised that he used Shadow Eye. He was able to cut some of the limbs. The shadow teased him by asking what was the point of breaking just one leg. Yi replied that without one of the front legs for defense, it will be much easier for him to hit its weak spot, and he needed to have a more effective weapon for that. He turned his dagger into a lance. He pierced the underside of the beetle to force it to get up. He knew the reason why the beetle was lying still, because its weak spot is its abdomen. He was exhausted, but he won. The beetle dropped a crystal. The shadow teased him for being out of breath from killing a mere E-rank shield bug. He suddenly felt a surge of power entering his body. He absorbed the crystal and realized it was an EXP pack. The system notified him of plus 0.2% to advance to D rank. The shadow notified him that it was an energy stone, and it has a chance to increase his ability level. He could sense that something was approaching, but he couldn't see anything. The shadow suggested that he use the Shadow Eye to look. He asked what the skill was. The shadow told him that he just needs to focus his shadow energy into his eyes to activate the Shadow Eye skill. He followed it and successfully activated his Shadow Eye level 1. The creature threw spikes at him. He almost got hit. When the spike got stuck on a rock, it emitted green, foamy substance. Yi asked what those darts were. He could sense the attack again. He was agile and flexible enough to evade it. He questioned if the Shadow Eye is defective because he couldn't see clearly. The shadow replied that it's not that it's ineffective, it was just because he's too weak. Upon hearing that, Yi decided to gather more energy. The shadow was amused that Yi, a tiny E-rank, can manipulate shadow energy so skillfully. Eventually, Yi saw that there's a warping sword bug, known as the Head Harvester, and the stinger launcher that specializes in ranged toxic stings. Those creatures are both in E-rank. The shadow could tell that he had already adapted to the knowledge base, but Yi saw that there's many of them. The monsters were everywhere. He remembered a human saying that when they see one cockroach, it means that there's already so much of it in the dark corners. The shadow praised him for finding a good position to avoid getting surrounded. He glared at them as he wielded daggers on both of his hands. Then he exudes a powerful energy while yelling at those monsters to get lost. The shadow was impressed that he already awakened the second form of the Shadow Eye. It was surprising since he was just an E-rank. In Shadow Eye level 2, the shadow becomes his pupil, and every heartbeat of his enemy is a death knell. The system showed his stats. He's an E-rank with a shadow system, and his abilities are Shadow Knowledge Base, Shadow Eye level 2, and Shadow Transformation. He noticed that the bug's movement had slowed down. It was slowed down by at least a half. He could see some purple spots on its body and wondered if those are its weaknesses. The system notified him that the weakness had been recorded. The shadow told him that it's the benefit of his Shadow Eye reaching Tier 2. Once he spots the weak point, his attacks can break through its defense. He realized that those guys have their weak points underneath. He used an attack called Shadow Thorn Great Burial, where the shadow appeared from the ground and formed spikes that skewered the bugs. This technique basically drives shadows into the ground and then pierces upward, dealing area damage. The system continuously notifies him of his breakthrough progress. He realized that each projector only gives 0.7% breakthrough value. Since he figured out their weaknesses, he decided to wrap it up quickly. He decided to take them all out in one go. As he slashes through them, the system continuously informs him of his breakthrough progress. He didn't expect that just Shadow Eye Level 2 would boost his attack precision that much. Suddenly, a long green slender monster charges at him. The shadow acknowledged his fast reflexes, but it felt bad that his brain couldn't keep up. When he had taken a good look, he realized that it was a warp sword bug. The shadow was surprised that he morphed the shadow dagger into a whip. The bug hissed when he wrapped the shadow around it. He dared it to try jumping again, then he beheaded it. The weakness of this warp sword bug has been recorded by the system. The other bugs synchronously released their stingers at him. Yi made the shadow transform. Then he charges at them, targeting their butts. The system informed him of his D-rank breakthrough progress to be at 12.1%. He made several ropes out of the shadow and pulled down those warp sword bugs. The shadow commented that he's finally looking like someone who is worthy of the power, even if the pose is a bit ugly. The gift granted by the Eye of Shadows greatly boosts his senses, reflexes, strength, and control over shadows. Hence, the name Gift of Shadow Eye. His D-rank breakthrough progress has increased to 34.2%. But the gift of the Shadow Eye also consumes a massive amount of mental energy. It's the price demanded by the Eye of Shadow. The shadow could tell that Yi had reached his limit. Yi's vision blurred. He was slashed by a bug who sneaked behind him, but he refuses to fall there, especially when he finally has power to avenge himself. A timer at 15:28:42 appeared. Yi thought of those NG group bastards who dared to cover up the truth about his parents' deaths and shamelessly forced him to mine to repay the debt. His progress continued to grow even as time slipped away. But he pushed through, driven by the power he now held to change everything, and he vowed never to give up. He will avenge himself and drag those arrogant bastards down to hell. He vowed to make them kneel and repent at his parents' graves. At this point, his remaining time is 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and his D-rank breakthrough progress is 95.4%. The shadow had observed his hatred, which aligned so well with the shadow system. It even nourishes the shadow energy. The promised time was near, so he told him to hurry. The timer kept running until there was only 7 seconds left. The shadow noticed that Yi planned to release all that shadow energy at once. He asked if he's not scared that his body will explode. Only 3 seconds remained. It was just a little more till he break through and he'd do anything just to get stronger. 1 second left and he unleashed a powerful energy. Eventually, the timer had reached 0. He leapt so high while his sword gave out a powerful energy. In that single powerful strike, he defeated all those bugs and reached 100% D-level breakthrough rate. With that, he was promoted to D-level. He was exhausted. The shadow teased him that he barely made it, but now he'd call him Little D. He glanced at the corpses and saw a weapon. The shadow explained to him that the insect nest used to be a beginner trial field for his people. The dagger, in human standards, would be at a level. Yi was confused that he called it a dagger when it's a great sword. It made him ask if all of the shadow's people are giants. The shadow replied that compared to his energy, those weapons are nothing. Yi doesn't agree to that. He decided to store them away. The shadow asked him if it can be used for something else. He replied that he's going to sell it. But he knew that only D-level awakeners can sell equipment, so he planned to stop by at the registration hall first. At the hall, Yi couldn't believe that he ranked at E-level. The receptionist explained that even when his physical stats are decent, there's no detectable energy fluctuation, so he's rated at E-level. And the record showed that he's a minor, so E-level advanced gets a 15% salary increase. When they left the hall, Yi sarcastically uttered that the shadow system is unmatched. The shadow replied that it's the human's limited perception that can't detect shadow energy. Thinking about it, Yi realized that being undetectable is a good thing. But it makes selling gear a bit harder, at the black market where all shady things happen. The shadow commented that it's fitting for the shadow system. Yi walked inside quietly. The men gossiping didn't notice him at first until someone pointed it out. The shadow commented that humans are funny. They embed a few gems on some iron and call it divine gear. Suddenly, he feels sorry for Yi. A man shooed Yi away. He looked down on him for being a minor and assumed that Yi couldn't pay for anything. Yi asked him if that's how he treats his customers. The man doubted that he's a customer and questioned him on what he could even afford. Our MC told him that he doesn't want his stuff anyway. He uncovered the great sword and demanded that their appraiser see how much his sword is worth. A woman clinging to a man's arm appeared, and she questioned why he brought her to a stinky place. The man is Zhou Ting, a D level, and the woman is Su Qing, a civilian. The shopkeeper left Yi and went to entertain the young Master Zhou. He asked him if he had something good to sell. Ting replied that he got a decent sword from the gate of the otherworld, and he planned to sell it so he could buy his girlfriend a new car. The shopkeeper recognized that it was a wind howl sword. The weapon comes with a boost attack. It was a hot item among D levels. Yi recognized Su Qing. She was horrified to see him. When his parents died and he didn't get any compensation, she left him. She was harsh on their last meeting. Ting asked her if she knew him. She denied knowing him and lied that he's a fan of her since she's an influencer. Ting got annoyed with Yi and insulted him by calling him trash. He told him that the junk collection site is at the end of the street, so he should just take his junk there before they close. He yelled at him to get lost. He attempted to attack Yi with the sword he's going to sell, but it hit the great sword instead. His eyes widened when he saw that his sword got shattered. Yi told him that it was his sword that was real junk. Jin asked how it happened when he told her that the sword cuts like mud and was worth a lot. Ting got annoyed and attacked Yi with a punch. Ye noticed that Ting was too slow. He sidestepped to avoid being punched. Ting commented that his skills aren't bad. He attacked again. He continues to attack while Yi swiftly evades all of it. In Yi's head, the attack is way slower than the trials in the insectoid nest. While Ting was starting to get annoyed since he thought Yi was just a minor, but then he couldn't even hit him, even though he's D rank. He tightened his fist. Yi formed his shadow with a whip and wrapped it on Ting's fist. Ting yelled at him that a miner should crawl back into the mine. He asked if a dog shouldn't crawl back on the surface. He yanked the shadow whip and made Ting fall on the ground. Qing got worried for him. Yi mocked him by saying that he's fond of being a dog. Ting's anger heightened and he charged at Yi. Unexpectedly, a man with 2 guards entered and told them to stop. Ting was surprised to see Boss Wang. Wang is a D rank and the supervisor. He told Ting that even if he's a longtime customer, fighting in his shop is going a bit too far. Qing defended that the damned miner broke Ting's sword, that's why it led to that. The miner caught Wang's attention. He asked if Ting's weapon really got broken by his hand. Yi explained that it was him who attacked first, so if he broke his sword, it wasn't his fault. Wang asked him if that was really the case. Then he whispered that the sword in the kid's hand doesn't look ordinary. He asked if the same rule applies. Ting agreed to it since he'll get the money and the item for Wang. Wang told Yi that he'll act as a mediator. He asked if he could take a look at the sword first. When he grabbed it, he was surprised. The sword weighs over 100 pounds, and Yi had lifted it so easily. It made him wonder if Yi was an advanced one. He decided to test his limit first. He asked him where he got the weapon. Yi questioned them on when did the black market start checking owner IDs and item origins. He replied that he was just curious, and if Yi didn't want to say it, it was fine. Yi simply replied that he picked up the sword while mining. With that, Wang had confirmed that he's just a lowly miner. He checked the sword and stated that it was tough, but it has no added attributes. And at best, it's only worth a few hundred, whereas if Ting's sword wasn't broken, it would be worth over 2 million. Wang told him that since he's just a miner, life must have not been easy for him, so he'll just buy the sword for him. And he'll only have to compensate Ting with 2 million, and he'll cover the rest. He made it sound like he's doing Yi a favor. He stated that it was his good deed for the day. Then he asked Ting if he agreed. Ting accepted the condition since he stepped in. Qing told him that there's no way a miner could have 2 million, and she reminded him that he promised to buy her a car. Ting whispered to her that selling his organs will still get them 2 million. With that, Qing agreed to their plan. Yi could tell that they have it all planned out. Wang challenged him if he had a problem. He smirked and told them that the one with a problem wasn't just him. And then he started emitting the shadow's aura all around him. Wang's men attacked to cripple Yi. Wang stated that the pointless fight isn't worth his time. He suggested that they head to the waiting room and wait. Ting agreed to that, but to their surprise, a man went flying in front of them. Wang reminded this man named Biao to be careful, because if he breaks the merchandise, he won't be able to pay for it. Yi kicked the other 2 men. One went flying towards Ting. He kicked the man before he crashed into him. He commented that working the mines built up his strength. Yi told him that it's his turn. Ching wondered when he got good at fighting when he's a minor. Ting admitted that his moves aren't bad and he could take down a few nobodies. But he stated that in front of a D rank advanced, he's just still trash. Yi raised his hand and slapped the shit out of him. It angered him since not even his dad dared to hit his face. He vowed to kill him. He threw a beam on his way and Yi blocked it with just his hand. He deflected it so well. That made Ting confused about what's happening. He described that it was like there's an invisible wall. Yi told him that since his dad didn't hit him, he'd do the honors to teach this ungrateful brat a lesson. Ting was scared and yelled at him not to get any closer. Ching couldn't believe that Ting, a D rank advanced, could lose to a minor. Yi morphed the shadow into a spiderweb where Ting and Ching got caught in it. Ting realized that Yi wasn't just a minor. He asked if he's a C rank or B rank. He simply replied that he's an E rank minor certified by the guild. Ting couldn't believe that. He raised his hand, and Ting got nervous. Ting stated that he's a member of the Black Panther gang, and if he touches him, he'd be going against them. Yi knew that the gang was a loan shark. Ting replied yes. With that, Yi didn't hesitate to punch him continuously, while Ching screamed out loud. The impact of the punch blasted Ting to the wall. He coughed blood. Yi told them that he hated loan sharks the most. Wang attacked from behind. Yi pushed him away while telling him to get lost. Ting tried to settle the misunderstanding with 100,000 yuan. He asked if it meant that his face is only worth 2,000 per slap. Ting offered him 1 million just for him to stop slapping him. Yi knew they loved charging high interest, so he wanted that to apply to him too. He told him that the 50 slaps earlier were just the interest and now he's going to charge the principal. Ting showed him his black card and offered 5 million. He told him to take everything he got. Our MC saw that the card was an NG Group VIP card. He realized that the ones collecting the NG Group's debts and forcing him into the mines are people like him. After learning that, he decided to let Ting go and lure the snake from its hole. He took the card while saying that the Black Panther gang has squeezed millions out of him over the years, so with him taking the card, it was like returning the money back to its rightful owner. Ching helped Ting up while asking him if he was okay. He pointed out that she mentioned that he's just a minor. She reasoned that she had no way to know that she got powerful. He slapped her and blamed her for saying that he's a minor and causing him to let down his guard. He knew that his money wasn't easy to take. He called someone. The man on the other line just finished beating up people and answered his call. Ying called his brother Panther to tell him that he needs to stand up for him because just recently someone stole the treasured sword that he was going to offer to him and even threatened to wipe out the Black Panther gang. Panther told him to send the guy's info. Panther's lackeys reported to him that they got the item. He also asked what they're going to do with those people. Panther asked him if there's any people there. They don't see those people as humans, so they replied no. And he cut up the bodies into pieces. Panther told the guy that the kid that Ting reported is his now. There was an entry on the Shadow Knowledge base, and it's about the NG Group. It is a massive multinational corporation and the main culprit behind the death of Yi's parents. The next day at the guild, a man approached Yi to ask if he could help him with anything. Yi answered that he's looking for a task that suits him, an E rank advanced. The other men who heard him told him that he's in the wrong zone since the lowest level of tasks in there are D rank. They laughed at him, saying that he's trying to get himself killed. Other people butt in, saying that it's funny that an E rank dared to talk big. One person added that E rank survive from depending on them like parasites. They told Yi to leave and wait outside for teams that will need him. The crowd chimed in, saying that he should be at the entrance by the garbage pile since trash should stay trash. Yi was unhappy that the 5 million that he got was instantly taken away by those damned loan sharks. His priority now was to get a task. Someone walked in, and everyone felt an immense pressure. With that pressure, they estimated that the person was at least B rank. The aura of a B rank made it difficult for them to move. The woman had silver hair, cat ears, and a red aura around her body. Yi remained quiet while the others gossiped on why a B rank was there. In Yi's mind, despite the delicate aura, she looked like a rich girl, and he doesn't sense any killing intent. He wondered if she's just hiding it. He noted the contradiction of being ostentatious and restrained from her. A man with a black mask announced that the D-rank task at the Beast Abyss needs a D-rank advance to work as a minor. He asked if there's anyone interested. The crowd noticed Yi completely unfazed by the aura when their knees were already shaking. They expected that an E rank would have been down on the ground already, but Yi even took a step forward. Yi realized that he's the only one that way. The woman also noticed him completely unaffected, despite being a minor. The guild staff recognized the woman, Chin from the Longmen 3rd Street. He told her that he got a lot of D rank around. She declined and told him that she'd take Yi. The guild staff was surprised and informed her that it's against the rules since he hasn't queued up to register. She glared at him while telling him that she is the rule. She reiterated that she'll take him. The man had no choice but to reply yes. Yi followed her. The guild staff couldn't believe it since it was his first time seeing her personally choose someone. It made him wonder what the story of the minor was. A few hours later, a gigantic, muscular monster with horns appeared. The bard played his flute. In their party, they have frontliners, damage dealers, and support. It was a pretty balanced team. In Yi's mind, the Minotaurs aren't a big deal. He watched them fight and he could tell that they were in sync, especially that a B rank one led the team. He could tell that everything goes smoothly. But he used his shadow eye and found Minotaurs below that exceed D rank standards. He wondered why the others couldn't sense it. The shadow told him that his shadow eye has already reached tier 2, and his sensory perception far surpasses that of those trash. Yi knew that even if the others didn't sense it, the B rank rich girl should. He wondered if she noticed it, and deliberately hid it for some reason. The bard reported to Chin that the starlight crystal vein that she's looking for was in there. She told the miner to come with her. Yi couldn't believe her. She knew that it was dangerous, but she dragged the miner along. As they kept going, Yi noticed that the ominous aura kept getting stronger. It made him wonder if she didn't care if the miner or her teammates died, or was it because she believes that her B-rank power alone is enough to keep everyone alive? The ground shook. Then, out of nowhere, Yi and Chin fell on a pit. Luckily, they landed safely on the ground. Yi noticed something ahead. There was a D-rank Minotaur beast man. I saw her draw her sword. He anticipated her move. Her red aura formed eyes in front of her. But she didn't budge. She retreated behind him and told him that she'd cover him so he should go. Yi had to remind her that he's just a minor. She blushed. Her knees weakened and she told him to get out there. Yi couldn't believe her. She's a B rank, but she won't fight and she expects him, an E rank to handle it. Yi had no motivation to risk his life, especially when he gets minor wages only. But then she promised him $1 million if he takes them out. He replied that it was for the money's sake, that he'll force himself. He took out his dagger to take action. 3 Minotaurs attacked altogether. One of them engaged with him while the other 2 ran past him. They targeted Chin. That got Yi worried for his $1 million. She created a red aura around her and blasted them away. He didn't expect her to have a move like that. He admitted that he misjudged her. A Minotaur leapt towards her. Yi rushed to her aid and slashed the monster away. He teased her for having a face that attracts hatred, but when he checked on her, she's already running away. He cuts through the Minotaurs while telling her that she's hopeless. She was out of breath already from running so fast. She expected to be safe already, but little did she know, a Minotaur was behind her. She turned around and was surprised to see it. She wondered why it wasn't afraid of her. The Minotaur lifted its wooden weapon. Yi finds it strange that she's not fighting back when she clearly has the ability. Her bracelet glowed, and it created a barrier around her, and that blasted the Minotaur away. Her bracelet broke. Yi realized that it was a protective charm, and her move earlier wasn't from her own power. He asked her if she's a non-combat type advanced. She was embarrassed as she replied yes. She told him to keep it a secret. He replied that it will cost her an extra. More Minotaur arrived. He asked why it was only attacking her. Shadow Eye level 2 was activated. He saw a silhouette of someone. It actually masked its presence, that's why he didn't sense him first. The Minotaur's abnormal behavior was influenced by those strange fluctuations. Chin called out to him when a Minotaur came close to her. He slashed its head. But he was in a pinch when more Minotaurs gathered. He couldn't do area skills because Chin might have caught up in it. And if he didn't finish them all soon, he'd get worn down eventually. Since the target was Chin, he decided to give her to them. He told her that since both of her protective artifacts are used up and she's a non-combat type, she better be careful not to get ambushed. That embarrassed her. She couldn't believe that he said that out loud. A silhouette appeared behind her. The man unsheathes his knife. He was worried that a mere minor almost ruined his setup, but he still found his chance to kill her. The man wanted to hurt her because of her father. He slashed her. But before his attack landed, Yi already cut off his arm. All the while, Chin had no idea. That man was a bard. He was surprised. Yi informed Chin that the bard used infrasound to control the Minotaurs to attack her. She was surprised that it was Ludin. Ludin laughed at his carelessness of falling into the hands of a miner. He told him that he hasn't won yet. He collected the red energy from the minotaurs, and he formed a gigantic red misty minotaur. He wanted to demonstrate how terrifying a control type can be. From the aura, Yi could tell he's a C-class. Qin was surprised that Ludin absorbed the beastman's life force to strengthen himself. Suddenly, lava appeared on the ground. She suspects that he's upgrading into a C-class lava minotaur. Yi couldn't believe that from D-class he immediately became a C-class. The chat was so wild that he felt inferior. A lava minotaur C-class appeared in front of Yi and Qin, who are both D-class. The minotaur roared loudly and attacked him. Yi blocked its attack by creating a barrier. Its next attack was a powerful explosion. It was his first time encountering the destructive power of C-class. It melted his barrier. Qin noticed that he received some burns. The minotaur raised its axe. Yi grabbed Qin's hand and dragged her away. She was surprised when the axe almost came close to her face, but then she realized it couldn't move. Its movement was restricted with the shadow rope. She asked Yi if he's a control type too. He told her that he can't restrict him for too long, so she better run. He instructed her to run as far as she could once she entered the labyrinth. She was confused that he's not coming with her. He replied that he had to buy her time to escape. She got worried for him. He told her to hide herself well, and he'll come find her soon. It's not that he personally cares about her, but to him, she's $1 million investment. Ludin, who became the lava minotaur, searched for him. Yi appeared behind him. He asked where he hid Qin. Then he attacked him with his axe. Yi suggested that he take a guess. He was taken aback that Yi appeared behind him and slashed his leg. But Yi was caught off guard. Because not even the cracks in the rock can be broken through. Ludin laughed at him for being stupid since he used a knife on a stone. Then he counterattacked with a punch. Yi had a hard time dealing with the large area of lava. He decided to lure him into an open space. He ran and Ludin chased after him. While Ludin charges forward, he asks if running is all he can do. Yi activated the Shadow Eye. He believes that no matter how strong he is, there is still a weak point. Ludin planned to kill him first, then he'll search for Qin. He yelled at him to die. Yi found his weak spot. He targeted that. He focused on it. Ludin told him that he knew what he's up to. He added that his little tricks are useless. Yi was overwhelmed with his incredible power. He couldn't believe that it was just C rank. Yi was backed on a wall and Ludin rushed straight towards him, but he just stood there waiting for the right moment. Ludin was amused that he's not running anymore. He also finds it funny that he's attempting to slash him again using daggers. He yelled that the piece of scrap metal could only tickle him. Yi waited for him to attack again. And he did, and it gave Yi the chance to target his weak spot. It was at the center of his back, but then it glowed brightly. Yi was caught off guard. The lava-like spot in his back was so hot that even the shadow energy can't fully block its heat. Yi commented that he's smarter than he thought. He realized that the guy knew how to protect his weak spot. Ludin had no idea how Yi figured it out, but he confirmed that it was his weakness. He was confident to share that, because knowing it doesn't help Yi at all since the spot has temperatures over 2,000 degrees Celsius. He bargained that if reveals where Qin was, he'd spare him his life. Yi replied that he doesn't trust traitorous scum who sell out their own. It angered Ludin. He yelled out loud, "You have a death wish!" Ludin attacked using his axe. He challenged Yi to stop dodging if got guts. Yi made his shadow morph into a chain blade. Ludin was caught off guard, so he teased him for dodging too. He found the chance and made the shadow morph into a rope. He targeted the weak spot. His shadow almost hit him, but it melted. He's starting to get annoyed. Meanwhile, Ludin laughed at his useless attempt. He told him to give up his useless struggle. Yi notices that he's burning through too much of his shadow energy. It was in a good state, so he wondered if he should ask Qingtian for help. He decided not to. He was firm that even if it kills him, he won't let him take control of his body again. In addition to that, he knew that if he killed this C rank, he'd gain tons of EXP, so it was a golden chance that he didn't want to waste. He went for the blind spot again. Yi strongly believes that he's able to break through. He gave it his all despite being burned. The tip of the dagger had touched the burning spot. Ludin yelled out loud. He was notified that HP was nearly depleted, and Berserk Rage was triggered. His attack, critical rate, and speed increased by 200%. Yi was confused as to why he suddenly went berserk. He was blasted away, which made him crash to a wall with a powerful impact. Luden didn't expect that a filthy miner would push him that far. Yi was burned from his attacks. He decided to end their fight now. Unexpectedly, Yi felt something in his body. He had no idea why the shadow energy became stronger than before. Qingtian told him that the energy had always been in his body. It's just that his body couldn't draw it out before because it hadn't been tempered by extreme heat. He told him that he accidentally hit the jackpot and unlocked a new form of shadow energy. Yi notices that the shadow energy is healing his wounds. Qingtian informed him that it's more than just healing. Luden noticed that too, and that his aura became creepier than before. He couldn't let him recover any further. Yi stepped back to avoid his attack. Luden couldn't believe that he could keep up with his triple speed boost. It made him question if he's really just an E rank. He decided to flood the whole place with lava so he won't have anywhere to run. As the lava splashed throughout the area, Yi just stood there. Luden was confident that the lava would turn him into ash. But to his surprise, Yi could stand in the lava without problems. He used shadow enhancement. The basic form was already strong, so it made him curious what the top level would be like. He teased Luden by calling him Boiler Boy and telling him that the heat was too low. Luden couldn't believe it. Yi pointed out how he was enjoying hacking and slashing until then. But now, it was his turn to counterattack. Yi charges again. He moved really fast, and it's because of the shadow enhancement in defense, strength, and speed, which increases those stats by 200%. Luden couldn't believe his hand was gone. He cursed Yi. He decided to grab him, but his hand disintegrates with just one swing of Yi's daggers. He made a replacement hand using lava. He proudly announced that as long as there's lava, he can regenerate endlessly, and his attacks are completely useless. Upon hearing that, Yi's brows furrowed. He replied that he doubted that he could do that because his energy seems to be getting weaker. Luden dared him to attack again to show it. Yi sliced his limbs and he challenged him to do it again and again. He didn't stop. To his surprise, he couldn't regenerate to his original state. He wondered how it was happening. Yi told him that his energy had reached its limit. He urged him to give up. Luden reasoned with him that they don't have anything against each other, so there's no reason for them to fight to death. He agreed to that, but also reasoned that he's being paid by Qin to keep her safe. Luden replied that money isn't a problem, because if he hands over Qin, and they're back in the city, he would give him more than what she offered. He's offering him 5 million. Yi knew that he would just be betrayed. There's a possibility that Luden would bring people to seek revenge, and he could lose his life. He replied that he wouldn't do that. He argues that he sees him as a backstabbing scumbag. With that statement, Yi got an idea, and that is to turn a traitor like him to Qin Shaoshang. He'd definitely pay far more to punish his daughter's attacker, and by saving his daughter and capturing a traitor, he'd have the boss of Dragon Gate 3 streets owing him a personal favor. It's worth way more than 5 million. Luden knew he'd be tortured to death in Shaoshang's hands, and the organization won't let his family go. If that's how it will be, he'd just use a crystal. Qingtian was surprised that he has a prison gate fragment. He told Yi that if that fragment gets destroyed, the Beast Realm will lose its only connection to the outside world. The portal will vanish, and they will be trapped in there forever. Luden expressed that Yi had forced him to resort to that. A trail of light passes through Luden's hand. It was Yi. He grabbed the fragment and stabbed the weak spot, which made Luden yell out loud. His body got slashed all over, and he fell on the ground. After that, the core was pulled into Yi, which gives him a skill upgrade. Shadow Sense 2 became the ultimate Shadow Sense. A rumbling sound followed. Qingtian informed him that without the lava and Minotaur's energy keeping it stable, the Beast Realm is collapsing. At the Beast Abyss, exit. They made it out. The other players were talking about how it was terrifying and barely made it out. Qin expressed to Yi that she had no idea that he was that strong and way beyond E rank. She invited him to join Dragon Gate 3 Street since she's certain that her father would treat a fighter like him very well. Yi replied that he's not interested in joining any organization, and he requested her to keep his abilities a secret. She didn't push further, and instead she gave him his reward. Before he leaves, he asks her if Dragon Gate 3 Street steals weapons like his sword. She inspected it and told him that she will need to take it back for appraisal and assured him that whatever it is worth, he'll get every penny. He's fine with that. He could tell that she's knowledgeable about weapons. If she got good eyes for it, he just found himself a buyer for all his gears. He's also fine if she turns out to be a cheapskate like Boss Wang. He's still not a losing end either since he had $1 million in his hand. Once he reached home, he inspected the prison gate fragment. He was curious about what it really was. Qingtian replied that as long as he has enough fragments, he can make his strength reach S rank, or even higher. The rank enticed him. With the prison gate fragments surfacing again, it made Qingtian question if those bastards are still out there. He knew he needed to speed up his recovery, and that kid was the key. He imagined that one day the kid will have to face things beyond human understanding. He contemplated if it's time to warn him already. Eventually, he decided that it was too soon and that it would just terrify the kid. He decided to let him get stronger first, at the NG Group E-Class Wraith Zone. The place was under lockdown due to the mining incident. Yi stood at the edge of the cliff and surveyed the area. He saw that there's 1 B-Class and 3 C-Class guards. He couldn't believe that they deployed that many advanced fighters to guard it. Just as he thought, with his current strength, there's no way for him to uncover the truth yet. Qingtian asked what was worth investigating on a lowly E-Class dimensional rift. He replied that his parents' death and the truth behind them are there. Back then, he was given 200,000 as compensation from the NG Group. He was encouraged to take the money and to sign a form to acknowledge that his parents' death was accidental. When he didn't move, the arrogant man asked him if it was not enough. He replied that he wants the truth. The man insists that there was an accident and his parents and the other miners died. But Yi refused to believe it since both of his parents are C-Class awakened. He wanted to go in and check, hoping that they were still alive. A large, muscular man grabbed him and informed him that anything can happen in a Wraith Zone, even C-Class can die. He argues that it was just an E-Class Wraith Zone, so Wraiths there shouldn't be stronger than E-Class. The man grabbed his collar and told him to behave. Yi argues that even if his parents were attacked, they could still make it out alive. The man got angry, thinking that he's just trying to extort more money. He was about to punch him. Suddenly, someone yelled, "Stop!" It was Ning Donghao, the chairman of NG Group, A-Class Awakened. Chairman Ning scolded his men because he gave them an order before to properly console the victim's family. He gave Yi additional money to help him get through his current troubles. Yi insists that he doesn't want the money since he just wants the truth. He promised him that they will investigate thoroughly and give him a proper explanation. Yi believed him and expected that the truth would come out soon. But instead, they framed his parents as thieves and handed him a bill for millions in damages. Qingtian commented that no matter what the race is, the weak are still oppressed. He advised him to gather more rift gate fragments so that once he's strong enough, uncovering the so-called truth will be as easy as saying it. Yi was silent, but Qingtian heard his thoughts. He blamed Qingtian's shadow energy for being unpredictable, leading him to be classified as E-Class. And he questioned him since he's saying that he will take over his body, but he's helping him level up. He questioned if he's good or bad. He thought that if he had proven that this guy was crazy, then his claim to raise him to S-Class would just be lunacy. Qingtian told him to stop, and expressed that if he didn't find any potential in him, then he wouldn't even bother with him. He replied that he hasn't said anything, but he's getting angry. It made him think of him as a lunatic even more. Suddenly, he received a mission invite. At Chemical Zone, a D-Class Wraith Zone, a man in a suit asked Yi why he was late. He replied that it was far, but the reality is he rushed there from another E-Class Wraith Zone. An old man recognized him. He greeted this man named Uncle Hao. Hao was happy to see him. It had been 5 years since it was Yi's parents' accident. The other men with them expressed that they thought they were waiting for someone important, and yet it turns out to be a deadbeat monster. These men who showed hostility towards him are Guer, Gusan, and Guda, who are all mercenary and C-Class awakened. The man in the suit explained that the mission involves mining and they didn't want to trouble the advanced fighters. Guer yelled at him to stop wasting time and just tell them the mission. The man in suit explained that the rift is a D-Class Wraith Zone, and their task is to find ice crystal ore and mine 60 kilograms as samples. Meanwhile, Yi took notice that there are C-Class Awakeners for a D-Class Wraith Zone. It was overkill. There was one guy in robe, his name is Heizi, also a mercenary and C-Class Awakened. From the bloodlust coming from them, Yi could tell that none of them are decent people. Plus, he can faintly sense another C-Class presence inside the Wraith Zone. A man watched the entrance of the rift through his mobile phone. He uttered that all his toys had been gathered. It was time for him to begin the hunt. This person is Blood Leopard's second in command of the Black Leopard Gang. They entered the rift, and while walking, Hao asked Yi if he didn't need to wear a protective suit. Yi replied that there was no need because he's awake now and he can handle it. San commented that an ascended miner is a rare breed, or reminded him to mind his mouth because Yi was the king of trash heaps. Hao warned Yi not to mind them. Yi assured him that he's not reckless. Yi checked the area and noticed that the vegetation in there seems deliberately altered for hiding, and he felt a lurking, killing intent nearby. He saw something cross in front of him. In his head, this stalker could no longer hold back. He wondered if it will continue to hide in the shadows, or if he has other plans. San yelled at Yi to move his feet. Hao replied that they will speed up. Yi knew it was the perfect time to use the environment to shake them off and observe from the shadows. He grabbed Uncle Hao and told him to hold on tight. Doc complained that the miner was so fast, they yelled at him to stop. Told them that it's fine since those two are just pieces of trash, and if they leave them, they will be as good as dead. The red-haired man sat on a branch as he watched those Gu brothers. He wondered if the others sensed danger. He ran his mouth across his lip and thought that it was fine too, since if everyone was as dumb as those three, the game would be way too boring. Da told that he could tell something was off about the mission. Ever since they came in, they could feel that someone was watching them. Told them not to be paranoid. He told them that it was just a D-rank mission, and the three of them are C ranks, so they can handle it. San replied that he feels weird too, like a chill runs down his back. He suggested that they head back. Told him to stop panicking, but just as he said that, their eyes widened. San was attacked from behind, red strings wrapped around his head. He recognized Blood Leopard, told him to let him go and they can talk it out. Blood Leopard replied that they kept provoking their Black Leopard gang over and over again. So there was nothing to talk about. He pulled the strings and that chopped San's body. Those two watched it happen. Da was engulfed with his anger and charges ahead. Tried to stop him. The red strings caught his fist, and his whole body was wrapped in strings. The strings cut through his skin, and eventually chopped his body. Was terrified, so he ran as fast as he could, while Blood Leopard was in a frenzy, since he liked fearful prey the most. Meanwhile, Yi and Hao rested for a bit. Hao asked him why he ditched those other awakened men. Yi inquired if he offended anyone or any faction recently. Hao replied that he's just a miner, so there's no way he would offend someone. He asked him why. Our MC revealed that the mission is a death trap, and someone wants all of them buried in that twisted place. Hao expressed that he's scared. Yi told him that if he knew something, he should tell him. Suddenly appeared and yelled at Yi for not saying anything, even when he noticed something strange. He blamed him for the death of his brothers. Yi commented that wasn't useless at all, since he helped draw out the mastermind before he died. That statement angered him. He asked him what he said. Yi repeated what he said, that was about to die. Was surprised to be caught in red strings. Blood Leopard told Yi that he didn't expect him, a miner, to be that interesting. Yi had activated Ultimate Shadow Eye. Hao got scared when he saw Blood Leopard. He begged him to spare him as they were just miners and never crossed him before. But Blood Leopard wouldn't let him go, because when he was drunk a few days ago, he had slipped into letting them know that he was the one out of his grasp. Blood Leopard could mark human weak points. He's a C rank with a Blood Spider Silk skill that cuts via high-frequency vibration within a 10-meter range. Hao promised him that he'll take the secret to his grave and won't tell anyone. But Blood Leopard only believed in one truth. Yi warned Hao to watch out, but it was too late. Hao was shot in the shoulder. Blood Leopard's belief was that only dead people can keep secrets. Yi cursed at him. Then Yi retaliated. His blades were blocked, though Blood Leopard didn't expect a miner like him to have some skills. Now, he wasn't surprised that he managed to take down the punk, Zhou Ting. But Blood Leopard told him that he can only be as good as that. Then he was almost clawed at, but good thing he jumped to evade it. Blood Leopard was more than willing to help him die if he's that eager. At this point, Yi activated Shadow Enhancement. He tried to block the consecutive attacks, but he had a difficult time. Blood Leopard saw that he's still distracted, so he clawed at him, making Yi hit a tree. Hao tried to approach Yi, but he told him to stay back. Getting close was a huge disadvantage against Blood Leopard, so he needed to change tactics. Blood Leopard assured them that both of them would be killed. Yi responded that he doesn't know yet who would die first. He activated the Ultimate Shadow Eye. He used a Shadow Morph Dagger, but it was all countered. Blood Leopard taunted him by asking if that was all he got, but he had more tricks on his sleeve. Blood Leopard was amused that he had a lot of tricks for a miner, but too bad, he was just an E rank. Suddenly, Gusan appeared from the ground, and then he wrapped his snake-like body around Blood Leopard. Blood Leopard expected him to wait until the end to make his move. Too bad for him, his skill was his biggest weakness. Because close combat is Blood Leopard's domain. Red strings wrapped around Gu's head and the neck, and he was sliced to pieces. Yi was overwhelmed that the C rank was taken out just like that. He was way weaker than him, so he shifted his focus on getting out there first with Hao. But Blood Leopard wouldn't let them escape. The night deepened. Yi treated Hao's wound first. He promised to find a way for him to get out later. But Hao encouraged him to just go on his own because dragging him will only slow him down. Yi probed what exactly he did for Blood Leopard to want him dead so badly. He revealed that it was because he discovered the truth about his parents' death. Yi's expression changed. In a serious and firm tone, he probed about it further. Ya yelled at Hao to tell him what he knew. Hao admitted that he wasn't sure at first, but now that Blood Leopard had come to kill him, it confirmed that there was something wrong with Kuishi Hao. He shared that before the mining accident happened back then, his father suspected Kuishi Hao was conducting dangerous experiments in the mining area. He never expected the mining accident to happen just a few days later, and his parents were framed for stealing ore. Yi questioned him on why he didn't say anything back then. He admitted that he was scared. After all, he was just a miner. He couldn't afford to lose his job, especially when he has a family to support. Yi was disappointed in him for just standing by, while his parents suffered such injustice. The guilt ate him up that he had too many drinks and slipped that to someone, bringing that fatal disaster on himself. Suddenly, Blood Leopard showed up and unleashed his strings. Yi was alerted. He saw Hao being wrapped in those strings all over his body. Without any more time left, Hao apologized to him and hoped that Yi wouldn't hold a grudge against him. After that, his blood gushed out. Blood Leopard felt that Yi was familiar. Now he realized that he was the son of those two C ranks. He charged at him, determined to send him to his parents, but Yi refused to go down without a fight. He slashed at him. Yi was caught off guard. Blood Leopard suggested that watching his own flesh and blood fly everywhere should be exciting. Yi argued that his blood spider silk wasn't invincible. He used Shadow Morph to create a great sword. He noticed that when Blood Leopard attacked, it was the time when his defense was at its weakest. He broke the strings, which surprised Blood Leopard. So, Blood Leopard released more strings in his direction. He realized how ruthless this kid was for trading injury for injury. But Yi fell to his knees. He was reaching his limit. Because of that state, Blood Leopard realized he was just bluffing. Though he admits, he gave him a scare earlier. He released his strings towards him again, and told him that if he weren't an E rank, he would have been done for. He taunted him to kill him, and noticed how Yi glared at him. It made him laugh. Whenever he see an ants reveal that unwilling look, it excited him. To provoke him even more, he decided to reveal a secret. He admitted that Hao Wu was half right, but also his parents didn't die in a mining accident, because they died in his hands. He liked how the kid scowled at him. He added that when he killed his mother, his father looked the same way too. His father unwillingly watched as Blood Leopard cut his mother into pieces. Blood Leopard noticed how his threads were being burned away, and he had no idea how it happened. Yi erupted with a powerful energy from his body. Qingtian appeared behind him. Through his gritted teeth, he told Blood Leopard that he would slaughter him. Just as Qingtian expected, Yi could use hatred to stimulate the shadow energy in his body. There was a surge in internal shadow energy detected, and it initiated correction. When the level correction was complete, C-rank shadow enhancement leveled up to Tier 2. He also awakened a new skill called Shadow Jaunt. The body can slip into any shadow and emerge from any other connected shadow. Blood Leopard couldn't believe that his injuries were completely healed. He didn't know he had healing skills too, but he wasn't threatened. Instead, he finds a prey more interesting when it struggles to the brink of death. Yi scoffed at that. He revealed to him that beneath the shadows, he was the prey. Blood Leopard was caught off guard when the kid's strengths suddenly increased. He also noticed that he became faster, because in an instant, Yi was behind him. But it wasn't enough to kill him. Yi released a flying dagger swarm, but that move was useless against him. But Yi didn't stop there. He used Shadow Jaunt, Flying Thunderstep, a teleporting skill using a Shadow Jaunt in a thrown weapon. He was caught off guard with that move, but it was still useless because he wouldn't let the toy knives break through his defenses. Yi moved quickly again. He told him that he wasn't trying to break through his defenses. He knew Blood Leopard couldn't handle both offense and defense at the same time. It was because the speed at which he controlled his blood threads kept up with his reaction speed, and that was his weakness. Yi moved quickly as he slashed him all over, making Blood Leopard cough blood. Blood Leopard couldn't believe that he'd lost to a miner. Yi interrogated him on what really happened with the mining accident back then. Blood Leopard was about to reveal about his mother, but Yi had moved his dagger and cut off his arm. He screamed in pain. Yi's patience was running thin. Blood Leopard dared him on what he's going to do if he told him. He blamed everything on Kui Shihao. Yi's father stumbled upon his experiment back then, and because he was afraid the matter would be exposed, he had them kill his parents in a fake mining accident. It made Yi angrier. After knowing that it was someone from the NG group, he expected Yi to be scared, so he advised him to just let him go. But before he could finish his sentence, Yi had already beheaded him. Yi was determined not to let go of any single person involved in his parents' murder. It started raining that night. When Yi visited the NG group headquarters, he saw Shihao about to ride the car. Knowing that he could be reckless, Qingtian had to remind him not to go seek pointless death even if he had advanced to C rank, and he should be able to sense that there's an A rank nearby. He knew that. Both the chairman of the NG group and the A rank advanced Ning Donghao were both in the car. He followed the car, while assuring Qingtian that he won't be so reckless as to make a move on Shihao there, and besides that, he doesn't completely trust Blood Leopard's words. His plan was to investigate whether the matter with his parents was ordered by Shihao alone or if the entire NG group was involved. It also didn't matter to him if Ning Donghao was involved, because to him, a debt of blood must be paid in blood. They arrived at the Black Panther gang's warehouse. It made Yi curious what Shihao was doing there in the middle of the night. A man wearing only a black trench coat and pants ordered his subordinates to be careful with the experimental equipment that they carried. Shihao asked him if the old miner Hao Wu was dead. He replied that Blood Leopard was currently missing, and the otherworldly gate he used to infiltrate also had disappeared. But to him, it didn't matter if they could confirm Hao's death or not. Shihao wondered what had happened when Blood Leopard was a C rank. The man in black trenchcoat suspected that he underestimated his enemy. Among the people he killed were 4 C rank advanced. Shihao wanted the equipment to be moved quickly to avoid any complications from delays. The experiment was at a critical stage at the moment, so there shouldn't be any slip-ups. The man asked if the money was ready. Shihao assured him there was nothing to worry about. Yi continued to eavesdrop at them. He figured out that Shihao was the culprit all along. The man in black trenchcoat sensed him. He burned the crate as he asked who was there. In a flash, Yi was gone. Shihao asked him what was wrong. He doubted if it was his imagination, but he couldn't deny the killing intent he sensed. Yi was almost discovered. He hid behind another crate again while thinking to himself how C rank was still not enough. The next day, in the Qin group, it was an enterprise of Qin Shaoshang, president of Longmen 3rd Street. Yi stood outside the building. Qingtian knew he wasn't looking for any available missions that early in the morning, so he asked him what he was doing there. He was there to find the 3rd fragment and to see how much his weapon was worth. A woman approached him and asked if she could help him with anything. He informed her that he was looking for Qin Xiyin. She asked him if he had an appointment. A woman clinging to a green-haired man's arm saw him and looked down on him. She told him that the place wasn't for a poor minder to get into. He even dared to say the eldest young Mrs. name directly. Yi recognized Su Qing. The woman continued to insult him in front of Su Qing. Su asked why he wasn't thrown out yet. Yi approached them and asked if that was the hospitality of the Longmen 3rd Street. Su replied that a poor fellow like him doesn't count as a guest. He insulted him even more by saying that he wasn't even fit to be the Qin family's dog. Yi wondered if all the people from the Qin family were all arrogant and dominant. He lost hope in contacting Qin Xiyin. He decided to just leave. But Su wouldn't let him walk out just like that. He ordered the guards to cripple him. He used a shadow jaunt. And in a blink of an eye, those men were taken down, and he was holding Su by his jaw. The woman yelled at him to let go of the young master Qin, otherwise the Qin family wouldn't let him off. He threw Su at the woman and they both fell. Yi let them go for Xiyin's sake. But Su was enraged. He wanted to kill him right there and then. Yi turned to him. They were going to attack each other when someone stood in the center and kept them at arm's length while telling them to stop. A silver-haired woman appeared and told Yi that he had a lot of nerve for daring to cause trouble at the Qin group. Su yelled at Yi that he's dead for causing trouble at the Qin group. He was certain that his cousin wouldn't let him off. The silver-haired girl ordered to throw him out. Su complained that she's letting him off too easily. He suggested breaking his arms and legs, but Su was the one grabbed. He asked his cousin what she's doing when she's his cousin. The woman also intervened, saying that the poor miner spoke her name directly, and the young master Qin was just venting anger for her. She told them that he was her friend, so there's nothing wrong with him calling her name. He ordered to escort the arrogant and domineering security guards and the junior employee, the woman, out, and they were never to be hired again. The woman reminded young Master Qin that she was his girlfriend, and expected him to speak up for her when she gave everything to him. Xian also warned Su how he wants to be addressed. If he dared to use the Qin family's name to swagger and swindle again, she would absolutely not forgive him. After that, Siyin greeted Yi. She invited him to sit for a while. Then she apologized that a junior from a side branch of the family had caused him some embarrassment. He replied that it's fine, since every family had some few mischievous relatives. She ushered him into a room. But a staff member interrupted her, saying that the president wanted to see her. She told him to wait for a moment and she'll be back soon. He replied that it was fine. She asked the staff if it was something important, but the president didn't say anything to her except that Siyin must go immediately. When they were gone, the exit was blocked. And someone came out. The old distinguished gentleman asked Yi who he was. He used the ultimate shadow eye and learned that this person was an A rank. He had the skill of Eye of Deterrence, which inspires fear in the opponent's heart and restricts movement. He also had Furious Thunder, which rapidly increases lightning attribute and enhances all stats. Yi was cautious with him since he was an A rank with 2 skills. He asked if there was some misunderstanding because he's just a minor. Deep inside, he was disgusted with this mental attack. Shadow enhancement was completely useless against it too. On the other hand, the man was amused that the Eye of Deterrence actually failed to inspire fear in his heart. He replied that it wasn't that simple. He released a lightning attack on him. He was impressed that he was able to withstand that blow. He assumed that he was at least a B-rank strength, and yet he still dared to say that he's a minor. He demanded him to speak about his motive for faking his identity to get close to Siyin. Before he could finish his threat, someone spoke his name, Qin Shaoshang, loudly. It was Siyin. She pinched his ear and got mad at him for calling her away on purpose, just so he could interrogate her friend. He must have nothing better to do. Siyin dragged him away. He told her to be gentle and let her dad save face. She told him to get out and never harass her friend again. Yi realized that the man was Qin Shaoshang, the one in charge of the Longmen 3rd Street. Siyin apologized to him for her dad's actions. She explained that he always thinks that people who get close to her have impure intentions. He replied that it's understandable and her dad was worried about her being cheated by a scumbag. She was surprised that he knew his dad very well, but in fact it was hard not to. Her dad was just outside the glass door, and his inner thoughts were being spoken out loud. Siyin was irked with his behavior. She yelled at him to get lost. When the situation settled, Siyin gave Yi a card with a 5 million deposit. She explained that the material of the greatsword from before was a bit special, so the client wanted to give a specific price after it had been appraised. That was not a problem for him. He also admitted that he was there for another reason. He showed her a fragment and asked where he could find that kind of thing. She replied that this unknown fragment from another dimension used to be very common, but in recent years, it seems that someone had been buying them up in large quantities, so they are very rare on the market. She suggested he try the auction at Longmen 3rd Street. After hearing that someone had been collecting the fragments, Qingtian suspected that it had a relation to Shihao. The guard Siyin bought earlier reported to the president the details about Yi, like he was an ordinary 20-year-old who was only classified as an E-rank ascendant a few days ago. But because no special energy could be detected in his body, he's still just a minor. Seeing that Yi went up from E-rank to C-rank in just a few days, it made him suspect that the kid had been hiding his strength all along. Suddenly, his phone rang. He picked up the call and teased old Huo why he thought of him. Huo asked if he still had any of those great swords that her daughter sent over. He wasn't sure about it. Then he asked what was wrong. Huo demanded him to check if there's more, as they planned to take as many as they had. For an old fox like him to be so interested, it made him question what kind of special use the sword had. He couldn't reveal much, but he could tell that the material of the sword might be able to raise the overall strength of their army. With Yi's strength and identity as mystery, and now he even produced an extraordinary weapon, Shaoshang couldn't just figure him out. Yi went to the auction as suggested, and seeing that there were a lot of stuff in there, it made him hopeful that there were really fragments there. Yi passed by a woman clinging to young Master Zhou. This was the woman that was with the young Master Qin before. She claimed that it was the young master who was pestering her, and she even left her job at the company just to get away from him. The man promised to take care of her. She hugged him for being so good to her. She didn't realize that the young Master Zhou was distracted by Yi. He wondered if Blood Leopard hadn't made a move yet. The woman saw Yi and asked how a minor was able to sneak in there. He told her that her memory wasn't good. He asked if he had forgotten how it felt being slapped by him a few days ago. Young Master Zhou warned him not to approach him, but he bumped into someone. It was the man in the black trench coat. He told Zhou Ting that he's a disgrace to their Black Panther gang. Ting addressed this man as Brother Bao. Bao passes by Yi and tells him that slapping his subordinate is the same as slapping the Black Panther gang. He placed his hand on Yi's shoulder and gripped it tightly while forcing him to get on his knees and apologize. Yi resisted, and the force made him shatter the ground. He would never do that. Bao didn't expect a kid like him to be so tough. Ting pointed out how he doesn't know his place for offending Bao. Cian arrived and reminded the Black Panther gang that they were in the Dragon Gate 3rd Street. They would be welcomed if they were to spend money. She warned them that if they wanted to start a fight, they would be happy to oblige. Bao apologized. And they head to the auction. Cian asked Lee if he's all right. He replied that he's fine. When they were away from them, Bao asked Ting what the kid's background was and how he ended up on his bad side. Ting replied that he's the guy who stole the precious sword meant as a tribute for him and even boasted about wiping the Black Panther gang. Bao was surprised at what he heard. He grabbed him by the collar and asked if he's certain. Shihao appeared and asked Bao what was wrong. They glanced at Yi and reported that the kid was one of Blood Leopard's targets, and he was puzzled that he's still alive. It made him think that the kid killed Blood Leopard, but Ting thinks it was impossible because he was just a piece of trash. He couldn't imagine him being a match for the second in command. Yi noticed Shihao. Shihao recognized him. He remembered him as a timid kid back then. It made him curious how he got involved in Cian. Yai asked Cian why she came too. She replied that it was because her dad suddenly wanted to see him. He got slightly worried that he's going to attack him again. She assured him that since she's with him, her dad wouldn't dare. Shihao approached them and stated that he didn't expect to run into them. Yi replied that he's just a minor character forced to work in the mines to pay off his debts. He passed by them, saying that he wouldn't associate himself with a high-level executive from NG Group like him. He replied that the decision on how to handle his parents' case was made by the higher-up, and he wanted to help him, but he was powerless, and his words carried no weight. Yi noticed how he absolved himself from the responsibility. He pointed out how Shihao would know the truth in his own heart. He also told them that Hao had a message for them, that truth will always come out, and if they do too many wicked things, they will face retribution. Bao yelled at him that he needs to be taught a lesson. Shishao stopped him because it was Xiaoshang's territory, so they couldn't make a move there. But since the kid knew something that he shouldn't, they would need to send someone to take care of him. Bao understood and would arrange it right away. Cian brought Yi to her dad. While they went inside the room, the host announced the beginning of the auction. Since it started, Cian left him to chat with her dad first, and would just advise him if anything comes up. He thanked her for that. He wondered what the president summoned him for. Xiaoshang was direct to the point. He asked if he had any more weapons like the one he commissioned Cian to sell last time. Seeing that Xiaoshang sought him out specifically, he could tell that he really wants the weapons of the Entropic clan. But he was aware to hold something back since it was not safe to take out many at once, and it would also affect the price. He replied that he came across the weapon by chance, and he had 2 more with him. Xiaoshang offered him another 40 million, so including the previous one, he would have 45 million. He acknowledged that 15 million per weapon was not a low price. However, he also pointed out how weapons for people like them were life-saving items. Xiaoshang asked what he was suggesting. He wanted 25 million for each weapon. Xiaoshang was caught off guard. It made him annoyed. The kid had guys. Suddenly, Cian appeared to inform him that the item had appeared. Then called Xiaoshang's name in warning. He had no choice but to comply and transfer the remaining 70 million at once. Then, Cian pointed at the item that Yi wanted. Meanwhile, Xiaoshang was cursing the kid in his head. The host announced a bid of 7 million. Then it increased to 10 million. Participant number 6 then offered 15 million. Yi was able to confirm that they really do have the fragment. He had over 70 million in his account, and he expects it to be enough to win it. He bids 30 million. He did that to intimidate the others, but still, losing 30 million hurted him. The host asked if there's anyone bidding higher than 30 million. Bao saw Yi beside them. He wondered why the kid would be bidding on that thing. 30 million was about to be locked in until Shihao bids 50 million. He challenged the kid on how much money he could spend to compete. After him, Yi bids 60 million. Xiaoshang told him that it wasn't worth the price. He advised him not to bid again, and to prevent him from squandering the money that he just got his hands on. Cian agreed that the guy was just deliberately driving up the price. In the past, 10 million was already a sky-high price for the thing. But Yi was determined to fight Shihao for it. He expressed that he's wondering if between the Qin group and the NG group, on who among them were more abundant in financial resources. Xiaoshang confidently replied that it would be his Qin group, but he had no reason to help him. Shihao bid 70 million. Then Yi replied that it was because he had the sword and showed it to him. Xiaoshang took those two at a previous price, and with the little bit of money Ji had, it still wasn't enough to compete. He replied that it wasn't the president's concern and assured him that he can naturally produce the corresponding quantity. Xiaoshang suspected he had a few more. The host called for the 70 million going once. Sian pinched her dad's ear and scolded him for being fussy over a little bit of money. She promised him that if Yi couldn't pay it, she'd pay him back. The announcement called for 70 million going twice. Sian dragged Yi out to make him move fast, since the old guy was about to snatch it. Deep inside, Yi couldn't fathom the world of super rich people. 100 million was just a small change for them. He bids 100 million. Number 2, Shihao bids 200 million. He was determined to get it because it was of great use to their project. Yi counterbid with 300 million. They continued to bid alternately until it reached 500 million. The other people started to think they're crazy for fighting over the fragment. It made them wonder if the fragment was truly valuable. One of them suspected that it was just a battle of ego and not about the item itself. Bao was annoyed that the kid was clearly working against them. Shihao replied that he's not qualified yet. Then he dropped 1 billion. The room fell silent as the host announced that number 2 bids 1 billion. Sian could tell that the bad guy was provoking them. Yi knew Shihao wouldn't lose that much money based on just impulse. Xiaoshang advised him to think it through. He asked him if he could really take out weapons equivalent to that. Sian intervened, saying that she's going to cover the cost. She urged him to bid quickly. He bids 2 billion. Then he looked at Shihao with a smug expression on his face. Bao started to question where the kid is getting so much money. At this point, Shihao was already furious. He knew Xiaoshang was the source. Otherwise, the kid wouldn't have 2 billion. The host announced 2 billion for the third and final time. And, eventually, he congratulated participant 9 for winning the bid on the unknown fragment. Sian was truly happy for Yi. He asked her if she really needed to be that excited. She replied that she loved seeing bad guys get humiliated. Xiaoshan cleared his throat and expressed that Yi had his fun bidding. And even after deducting the previous amount, he still needs to produce over 70 more. He confirmed if he can really produce the corresponding number of weapons. He replied that things are precious when they are rare, and when there are too many of something, the price naturally can't be calculated by the previous standard. He snapped his fingers and surprised them with over 100 swords. It should be enough to cover the 2 billion fee. Xiaoshang was amused by how straightforward this kid was. He liked his strength and temperament that he could imagine working under him. Sian called Yi's attention and told him that if he had something fun going on next time, he should call her. Xiaoshang didn't like that, though. The kid wasn't tamed, so there's a risk he would take his precious daughter away. He invited her to come home with him. Then he told Yi that he could directly pick up the item that he won. Yi thanked him. But before the president leaves, he gives the last piece of advice. He warned him that he shouldn't underestimate the NG group, and it's not something he can take on alone. So sometimes it's necessary to ally with someone who shares the same goals, and if he's interested, he could contact him. Meanwhile, Bao was on the phone. He reported to Shihao that the Qin group president had left with his daughter, and the one who was going to pick up the fragment was the kid. Shihao replied that they would make their move after he leaves the Longmen 3rd Street sphere of influence, and this time, they're careful not to screw up. Bao was confident since he's bringing 3 C-rank experts. He guaranteed him that it would be foolproof. While walking the quiet street, Yi expressed to Qing Tian that Xiaoshang had been digging a lot of information about him. He realized that the last sentence earlier was an attempt to win him over, but as long as he's not bound by him, forming an alliance for some extra help wasn't a bad idea. Qing Tian responded that Xiaoshang was just an A rank, and as long as Yi had enough fragments, he guaranteed that he could easily become an S rank. Yi gave him a side glance, so he took it as him being doubtful. Yi clarified that he believes him. He was just looking for a place to start the trial. But internally, Qing Tian could tell that he was suspicious, so he made a fuss that S ranks weren't common like a Chinese cabbage. There were only 9 S ranks in the whole world, and if he thought it was easy to become one, he wanted to challenge him to try becoming one, but he just kept it to himself. Suddenly, Yi was alarmed at what he saw. His apartment was burning. The other residents started running away. Then his phone rang. Sian warned him that the Black Panther gang was going to make a move on him. He replied that they already did. She suggested that he hide first while she sends people over, but he told her that he could handle it. Ting showed up and yelled at him to get on his knees and beg, and maybe he'll be merciful and spare his dog's life. Yi could tell they belittle him since they only sent a handful of gang members. He warned them that they would face death, but Ting argued that it would be him who's going to die. He wanted to see how an E rank would fight against 3 genuine C ranks. They surrounded him. Yi brought up that Blood Leopard couldn't even kill him. His confidence made those C ranks think that Yi had been hiding his strength, but Ting reminded them not to be fooled because the guy was just a minor. They assumed that he doesn't have any combat abilities at all. One of them attacked him from behind, but he vanished. And he appeared behind the man and hit him in the nape. And sarcastically, he replied that they're right, that he's just a minor. They were confused on how and when he appeared behind. Ting panicked, so he ordered the other two to attack, but Yi skillfully killed them. Then he grabbed him by the neck and teased him for being scared of a miner like him when they were a gangster. He grinned at him while reminding him how he liked playing with fire. Yi tightened his grip, which made Ting yell at him to let go. Since they liked playing with fire, he threw Ting towards the burning apartment. Ting warned him that President Kui and Brother Bao won't let him off. He fell right into the fire. Yi replied that he's going to send them down to him very soon. Just right after that, Xian with her bodyguard arrived. She asked him if he's all right. He replied that he's fine because he only received a few minor scratches. She asked him what he planned to do next. Since they made the first move, he'd have to strike back. And she was determined to help him. He asked why she's helping him. She had been annoyed with the Black Panther gang for a long time, and now they even dared to attack her friend. And he's one of the few friends she has. She blushed as she admitted that. It made him smile, and became more motivated to strike at the Black Panther gang. She welcomed him into her home and told him he could stay there until he found a new place. Hardly anyone stays there, so she told him to pick any room he likes. He chose one, but she replied that it was the exception. She tried to stop him from going in. But he already saw inside, and it was so girly. There were stuffed toys everywhere. He told her that it suits her well. She was worried that he would find it childish for the heiress of the Chin Corporation to like that kind of stuff. He didn't mind, since he thinks it's normal for girls to like those things. She pushed him out of the room. It made her blush when he said that it makes her cuter than when she's acting all cold and aloof outside. No one had ever used that word to describe her before. Suddenly, her stomach grumbled. It made her embarrassed. He laughed. She reasoned that if she wasn't worried he would be in danger, she wouldn't be starving. He took out some snacks and gave it to her. Those were the food he prepared for emergencies. She was confused where it came from. Back at the auction, she also wondered where he pulled the weapons from. He simply replied that he knew magic. She asked if he could teach her. Suddenly, he sensed something. He suggested that she goes home first. She asked what was wrong. Her father was hiding behind the bushes and was speaking his internal thoughts out loud. He could tell that if she doesn't go back soon, her dad would eat him alive. She scolded her father. When she was gone, he closed the curtains. The house was within the territory of Longmen 3rd Street, so no one should bother them. Qingtian appeared together with the fragments from Lava Minotaur, Blood Leopard, and from the auction. He had always been curious about the connection between those fragments and the dimensional portals that appear out of thin air. Qingtian explained that the 3 fragments in front of him are just a small part of the gate of the alternative prison, and all the dimensional portals in their world were related to the fragments of the gate of the alternate prison. They stepped inside the portal. Seeing that Qingtian knew about these things, he inquired what exactly the alternate dimension was. He was curious why there were so many insectoids and beastmen inside. Qingtian explained that they were all prisoners. What he allied with an alternate dimension or alternate prison was actually a massive interdimensional prison. They arrived at a desert. The wind was blowing, so he had to cover his eyes from the sand. Then he asked about these prisoners. Qingtian replied that he will find the answers once he completes all the trials. They reached a tall tower called the Sky-Reaching Tower. It was Qingtian's most satisfactory masterpiece, and also it will serve as Yi's trial ground. In Qingtian's head, the tower was ugly, but no doubt about it. Given Qingtian's face, his aesthetic would have been twisted. He had a lot of thoughts like the tubes which stopped the tower from being blown over. It looked like the materials he used, so he wondered if Xiaosheng would buy it. If he did, it would be worth a lot of money. Qingtian got annoyed with all of his internal dialogue, but he controlled himself because if he got angry, his soul would scatter, and no one cares about that. As they entered the tower, Yi asked what the content of the trial was. Qingtian explained that it had 6 floors in total. With Yi's current strength, it would be impressive if he could even defeat the Shadow Wyvern on the first floor. He asked if it was the thing in front of them, but he didn't feel any pressure. He looked down at this Shadow Wyvern. It was small. It didn't even reach his knee. To him, it looked just like a gecko. To him, hitting that thing would be bullying. Qingtian warned him that he wouldn't be able to laugh at it any longer. He tried to pet it, but it glowed. Its eyes looked fierce as it emits aura from its body. Then it blasted him away. Then it jumped. A new entry has been added to the Shadow Knowledge Base. It describes an alternate prison located in another dimension. Each alternate prison holds prisoners of different races. One of these prisons is the Sky-Reaching Tower, created by Qingtian. The tower has 6 floors, each inhabited by Qingtian's servants. Shadow Wyvern, C rank, had a skill called Shadow Enhancement. After enhancement, size, speed, and strength increased by 600%, weakness has been marked. An increase of 600% was 3 times of Yi's shadow enhancement. It made him feel like he was using a pirated version. Qingtian replied that it was because his constitution was inferior than his pet's. He couldn't believe that. He jumped to evade the incoming attack. As he prepared his knives, he reasoned that the bigger the body, the more blind spot it has. He released his knives onto the back of the shadow wyvern, but it didn't do anything. He was caught off guard at how strong its defense was. Seeing that he held back, Qingtian provoked him that with his meager strength, his attacks were just like tickles to it. He used shadow enhancement again. Qingtian told him that if he can't tame it, he won't complete the first floor's trial. He slashed the shadow wyvern from different sides, but it was still completely unharmed. Qingtian noticed how he used the shadow enhancement, and the shadow was already refined, so he ramped up the intensity for him. Aside from that, his servant was already hungry, too. He informed it that Yi was edible. Its eyes glimmered, so it attempted to eat Yi. Yi ran away. The shadow wyvern drooled as it chased after him. It made him ask Qingtian if his pet was drugged because it looked crazy. Qingtian explained that he wore it out a bit and now it probably sees him as food to replenish its energy. He complained that it was not fair. A fight is a fight, but it kept biting. He thought of a plan since it was hungry. He unleashed his ultimate move, throwing chicken legs. The shadow wyvern got distracted by it. It caught one chicken. He coaxed it by saying it was delicious. Then he restrained it, and his plan was a success. Taming of shadow wyvern was detected. Access rights for the first floor had been unlocked. Qingtian was disappointed and embarrassed with his glutton pet. It loved the chicken. The system informed Yi that he obtained the binding and activation authority for the gate of the alternate prison. He asked what they were for. Qingtian explained that after being replenished with energy, each fragment becomes a portal connected to the alternate prison. Basically, if Yi bound a fragment from that alternate dimension, he can open a portal at will. Getting such a good skill on the first floor made him think that the upper 5 floors would even be more lavish. Qingtian thinks he's being cocky, just because he cleared the first floor by being sly. Since that was the case, he let him go to the second floor to suffer a bit. He encouraged him to go and try. He informed him that the guards there were merely servants of the sky-reaching tower. You could feel that he's up to no good. He assumed that there would be more of those transforming creatures inside. Logically speaking, the pet on the first floor was already C rank, so he knew the second floor wouldn't be that simple. He urged him to take a look first before he decides. He promised him it won't be dangerous. They went to the second floor, and Yi opened the door. He was startled at what he saw. There was the Thunder Serpent King, Hydro Turtle, and Lava Minotaur, all in C rank. He questioned if those could be really called servants. Moments later, all the monsters attacked our MC. He jumped away to evade the attack. He glanced on the side and saw the entrance was also sealed. The Thunder Serpent King ordered to kill the intruder. Li Yi used Shadow Jaunt to evade the attacks. Then he followed it up by Shadow Enhancement. He ran as fast as he could towards a door. He got in and immediately closed the door. He was relieved to finally shut it close. Our MC realized Qingtian did that on purpose, that he lied when he said they were all just servants inside. Qingtian clarified that he didn't lie, and those were really just servants in there. It's just that his abilities were poor. To challenge the idea, he questioned what the Lava Minotaur could do. Qingtian replied that it provides heating. Then he asked about the Thunder Serpent King. He replied that it provides electricity. Then he asked the purpose of the Hydro Turtle. He reasoned it mops the floor. Yi didn't stop. He also asked about the other worlders. Qingtian explained that they do chores, move things, and other errands. Qingtian had this smug expression on his face, while Yi couldn't believe him. Suddenly, the system detected an A-rank life form approaching. He saw it was Xiaoshang and Xiyin. He wondered why they came. Xiaoshang heard from Xiyin that Yi dealt with the Black Panther Gang. He confirmed that. Black Panther Gang had already started targeting him, so rather than passively defending, he took the initiative and struck back. Xiaoshang told him that the Black Panther Gang had repeatedly provoked Longman 3rd Street, but he hadn't made a move. He asked him if he knew why. Yi suspected that he's afraid of upsetting the balance. He was right. The 3 great powers of Haicheng were in a state of mutual balance. Wu Tianqiao, the city lord, controls the politics of Haicheng, while Ningdonghao's NG group controls the economy. And as for Xiaoshang, he possesses power in both politics and economics that is second only to theirs. So, even though he detests the Black Panther Gang's years of bullying merchants and their forcible seizures, as long as they don't go too far, he cannot act. Because if he moves against the Black Panther Gang, one possibility is that it would force Ningdonghao and Wu Tianqiao into an alliance. Another possibility was that Ningdonghao and him would both suffer heavy losses, allowing Wu Tianqiu to seize the opportunity to take complete control of Haicheng. Yi straightforwardly asked if what he's saying was that he didn't want the Qin family to get involved. He grinned and replied that he wanted him and Xian to form a new faction to deal with the Black Panther gang. He asked if the president was trying to start a proxy war. Xiao Shang commended that he was smart, then informed him that he will provide the money and manpower, and Yi, with seeing, will execute the plan. In that way, the other two powers won't dare to act rashly. Even if he fails, he could mediate and ensure their safety. Yi was truly impressed that the president could devise such a thorough plan in just one night. He replied that if his daughter wasn't so insistent on dealing with the Black Panther gang with him, he couldn't be bothered. He asked the brat what kind of love potion he gave his daughter. He complained that he puts up money and effort, and his daughter might just run off with him, so no matter how he looked at it, it was a total loss. He thought of just sending Xian away and tying the kid up and throwing him somewhere. Yi had this disgusted expression while he wished that the president would not make his inner thoughts so obvious. Xian forced her father to leave. Then she closed the door. She asked Yi what he planned to do next. He decided to accept missions. His plan was to take every mission for all the publicly accessible dimensional gateways. He had to visit every dimension gateway in Haicheng. She took initiative to make the arrangements. Yi wore a devilish grin as he imagined the moment he obtained the fragments. It would mark the darkest hour for the Black Panther gang. The next day, Xian opened the door and revealed the people she carefully selected. From then on, they were the members of the Shadow Gang under Yi's command. Those soldiers-like men greeted the Mist and the Chief. Since Yi took a while to pick a name, she named it after his abilities instead. She asked if he didn't like it. He replied that it was a good name. He scanned them. They were all C rank. A group like that would be a considerable force anywhere. He asked why they were all wearing a mask. She replied that it's so their identities wouldn't be exposed and used against them. She added that it looked cool. He teased that it's just the artist being lazy to draw the faces. Xian asked for his next move. He replied that it's to take jobs. He planned to snatch every single commissioned mission from the Black Panther gang. There were a lot of jobs, so Xian doubted if they could even handle all of it. He assured her that it would be fine because they would only take the valuables. And for the others, he had a plan. Sometime later, a man endured the wrath of the higher-ups. He was called Trash for letting a new group like the Shadow Gang steal their missions. Bao yelled at him that he didn't need to tell him what to do. Since those people were looking for trouble, he should have sent people to take care of them. The man replied that they couldn't take care of them. It made Bao grab him by the collar and asked what. The man explained that no matter the mission, the Shadow Gang always deployed 5 or 6 C rank, and they don't have enough C rank personnel. Hearing that made Bao intrigued where this group came from. He ordered them to spend the money to buy exploration slots and send people in to find the target. The man replied that the sports for the upcoming expedition had already been taken by several unidentified individuals. Bao was at the height of his anger when he responded that he doesn't care. If they had to steal or pay a high price, he would want him to do anything to get his people in there. He also warned him that if he messed up a golden opportunity to make a fortune, he would hold him responsible. The man scurried away as he replied yes. The next day, at Xian's home, they were in the lounging area while Xian conversed with someone through the phone. She received information that the Black Panther gang paid a high price for many of the exploration slots they were holding. She asked Yi how he got certain that they would buy them. He knew they wouldn't give up the most profitable opportunity of the season. Xian doesn't understand, though. He elaborated that it involves some of the unwritten rules of the mining sites. To make more money, the supervisors and managers of the various mining sites all hide away from the high-quality ore and other unusual items. They use the end-of-season equipment maintenance as a chance to smuggle them out and sell them. In the past, Black Panther Gang would accept missions from the Mercenary Guild to plant scouts and lock on their robbery targets. Since they were all illicit goods, no one reports it to the authorities, even if they got robbed. Now that the path had been cut off, they would naturally choose to pay a high price for exploration slots to enter the alternate dimensions. Xian thought about it and realized that even if they sell them the slots at a high price, they were only getting a little bit of money out of them. He admitted that there's more to it than that. His recent trips to all those alternate dimensions weren't for nothing. He showed him a portal and revealed that he already marked all the alternate dimension entrances in Haicheng. He can open a small entrance to any of those alternate dimensions at any time. So all they have to do is to have their people keep a close watch on those who bought their exploration slots at a high price, and they could identify the Black Panther Gang's target. With that, they could make a move and take them down. It was such a great idea. Yi doesn't want too many people to know about the alternate dimension entrances, so he assigned Xian to pick a few trustworthy people to be on standby with him. She wanted to go with him. She loved doing heroic, righteous work. It made him smile, and agreed to it. They would take them down together. Inside the other dimension, the truck drove by. The driver expects that the shipment would be worth a lot of money. The passenger, whom he called Wang, promised him his cut. A sharp rock was on their path. And while they were chatting, the rock grew taller. They were both confused on what's going on. Several more rocks emerged like spikes. The people and the cargo behind the truck shook, until the truck hit the wall. The passenger on the front seat alighted the truck and asked if the cargo was all right. A man in a brown suit appeared and answered that it was perfectly fine. Then he made the spiky rocks float and warned them that they're going to have a real problem soon. They ran as the man fired the pointy rocks at them. But this man wouldn't let them go as he hasn't had his fun yet. Yi arrived and volunteered to play with him instead. He used a shadow jaunt and appeared behind the man. The man became angry that a dog dared to ruin his fun. Yi charged at him while saying that robbing people was one thing. The man was caught off guard at how fast he was. He needed to quickly use the stone to counter. But before he could, Yi had already grabbed his face while saying that taking lives so carelessly wasn't good. Yi banged the man's head on the wall and made a deep dent on it. The man asked who he was and suggested that he be sensible and not make a move. Otherwise, his brothers in the area won't let him go. He asked about the D ranks that Xian brought. The man was surprised to see them. Xian asked what they should do with those people. She confirmed if they were to kill them. Yi replied no, because killing would be letting the Blood Panther gang off too easy. He had a better way. The man asked what it was. Yi ordered him to go and tell Bao that Li Yi of the Shadow Gang was the one who did all of those, at the hospital. Bao visited his heavily injured man and got angry at the news. It made him wonder how that damned miner got so strong. His secretary replied that the tricky part was that on the surface, their men don't seem to have any injuries, but in reality, they all have comminuted fractures throughout their bodies. Even with the best medical resources, it would still take them half a year to recover. And that was no less than 5 million per person, so for 60 people, that's 30 million. Suddenly, he received a message. The other two teams failed too. Bao asked who did it, and he replied that it was Yi. He asked how that was possible. The three alternate dimensions were hundreds of kilometers apart. Even if Yi could fly, he couldn't possibly appear in all of them at the same time. The secretary showed him the video that their men secretly took to prove that it was true. In that video, Yi was stepping on a man's head while the others screamed in the background. Yi turned towards the camera. He asked the man if he was secretly filming. The person behind the camera got terrified of him. Yi talked to Bao through the video and told him that his underlings were weak. He challenged him to come out and show himself. He knew it cost a lot of money to treat underlings for half a year to a year. Bao crushed the tablet in anger. He vowed to kill him in the warehouse. Xian asked why they came there. He explained that he trailed Shihao before and accidentally discovered the Black Panther gang's warehouse right next door. They had been constantly ruining his plans the past few days, and he guessed that he would personally lead the team next. Xian guessed that he wanted to raid his warehouse while Bao was away. Suddenly, his phone rang. One of his men reported to him that Bao and his men had already left for alternate dimension number 3. He ordered them to continue keeping an eye on them. He informed Xian that Bao was leading the team himself, and she should make sure nothing goes wrong. He'd go harass Bao to buy her some time. Bao was a B rank, so she suggested having Duan Ao go with him, but he replied that it wasn't necessary. He wasn't going to fight him head-on. Bringing Duan Ao would just be inconvenient. He assured her that there's nothing to worry about, and even if he runs into danger, he can use the gate to return quickly. She told him to be careful, then he entered the gate. In the alternate dimension, Bao watched as his men happily moved the good stuff. A blonde man approached Bao to say that he's the best for making a move, and as soon as he did, Yi and people didn't even dare to show their faces. Bao was confident that a miner with some C-rank helpers couldn't possibly stir up some trouble, until he sensed something. Instantly, he yelled at who was there. One of his men was choked, and Yi revealed himself. He expressed that B-rank's perception was indeed impressive. Yi held the man as his hostage. Then he teased them by asking why they're so tense when he was just a little miner. The man cried and begged his boss to save him. Yi warned him not to move, otherwise he couldn't guarantee that the man wouldn't be decapitated. Bao released a fireball as he replied that they could die together. His subordinate couldn't believe him. The man screamed loudly as he burned. Then one of them yelled that Yi was gone. Bao sensed him behind. Yi mocked him for being a good boss by not sparing his own men. Bao released another fireball. Then he saw something. One of his men burned while telling him that he missed. Yi suggested that being his underling was such a high-risk job. The underlings advised Bao not to be rash. But as long as he could kill Yi, he didn't mind losing a few underlings. He attacked with Fire Tornado while wanting to see where he would hide next. His men ran as fast as they could so they would not get caught in it. Yi stood there while the burning men screamed loudly. As the Fire Tornado approached, he hid behind a boulder. Bao yelled for him to come out. Yi realized he couldn't underestimate a B rank. He decided that it's best to leave already. He was looking forward to Bao's expression when he returned. That night at the warehouse, someone was screaming loudly, asking what happened. The underlings explained that it was the Shadow Gang and the Qin family's eldest young miss. They brought 2 B ranks and over a dozen C ranks, and there was nothing they could do. Bao grits his teeth. The man felt scared and begged him to spare him. He mercilessly set the man on fire. Now, Bao understood why Yi suddenly had so many helpers. It was because of Xiyin. Because of that, he couldn't be blamed for becoming ruthless. Shihao declared that the matter ended there. But Bao couldn't accept it because everything he owned was in that warehouse, and it cost hundreds of millions. Shihao asked what he wanted to do, if he should lend him a few men and start a war with the Qin family. He reiterated that, even if Xiaoshang was away from Haichang, Xini isn't someone they could touch. It was also the critical moment for their experiment, so no matter how great Bao's grievance, he wanted him to endure it for him. Bao argued that he couldn't endure it for a second. The worst that could happen was kill Xiyin and Yi, then leave Haicheng. His expression suddenly turned to overwhelm. Several monsters look down on him while Shihao tells him that if he insists on courting death, he doesn't mind silencing him. It made him fall on one knee. Shihao warned him not to ruin the big plan over a little bit of money. As long as the experiment succeeds, he'll be the first to help him wipe out the Qin family. Bao was forced to reply yes, but deep inside, he was angry because it seemed that Shihao didn't care since it wasn't his money that had been lost. He didn't like that he had been humiliated. He assumed that Shihao thinks that without him, he couldn't really handle Xiyin. Meanwhile, in a red car, Xiyin talked to Ao, saying that Yi was really sharp. Ao instructed the driver to drive faster because the young miss missed Yi. It made her blush. She asked when she had said that. Ao replied that since she woke up, she already mentioned Yi 24 times. She argued that it was because he's her friend. But at that moment, a red truck was heading towards them. Ao covered her with his body while telling her to watch out. He braced himself for the impact as he held her. The truck hit them directly. After that, the water it carried spilled out, forming a fountain. The guards rushed towards Xiyin. Ao asked if she's all right. She replied that she's fine as they watched the car burn. Someone appeared behind them. Xiyin sensed him. It was Bao. Ao ordered the guards to protect the young miss. Xiyin told Bao that he's too arrogant to make a move against them with few men. Suddenly, she felt weird. Her body ached. She asked what was wrong. Ao replied that there was something wrong with the water. They were drenched from the fountain truck. Bao responded that he wouldn't move unless he secured success. He revealed that what they got covered in was a venom of a phantom spider. Bao had his underling cover him with an umbrella, while the others wore raincoats. Even A-rank advanced would be knocked out for 10 hours if they came into contact with it. At that point, Xiyin's guards were already down. As soon as Bao attacked, Ao yelled at the young miss to run. Bao grabbed him by the neck and acknowledged that he's quite loyal. Then he set him on fire while telling him that loyal bodyguards who protect their masters never have a good end. Xiyin watched him burn. Meanwhile, at the house, Yi was training. He used Shadow Jaunt and Traverse on a zigzag between the training poles, while slashing it down. The wooden poles were cut into pieces. Qingtian noticed that he had improved in using his skills. He replied that it's natural, since he's a C rank already. Suddenly, he received a call. He expected it to be from Xiyin. Qingtian teased him if C rank was that strong when it's just a little bit of extra strength, but at this time, Yi had already checked his phone, and his expression turned scary. He dropped his dagger. When he saw Bao grabbing Xiyin by her bangs, he was confused for a moment. Then he got angry. He asked Bao what he thinks he's doing. Bao informs Yi that what he's going to do would depend on how important Xiyin was to him. He gave him 2 choices: to bring a ransom of 1 billion to exchange for her life, or to watch as he tortures her to death. Xiyin tried to communicate that it was an ambush, but he didn't hesitate to pay the money. He asked where the trade would happen. Bao instructed him to bring the 1 billion to his warehouse within 1 hour, and he must come alone. If he notified the Qin family, Xiyin won't live either. Qingtian considered Yi's strength and advised him not to go and get himself killed. But Yi couldn't just abandon a comrade. Besides, there's no certainty on who would die. At the warehouse, Yi arrived and Bao acknowledged that he had guts. He asked where the money was, but Yi demanded to see Siyin first. Bao instructed his men to bring her out. The crane lift moved. Yi was surprised at what he saw. Siyin was dangling from it. Her mouth was covered too. Yi opened his storage space and dropped the money. Bao's underlings checked it and reported that it was real. Now that Bao received the money, Yi expected him to release Siyin. But Bao revealed that he didn't kill him earlier because he hadn't seen the money. But now that it was in his hands, he wouldn't just let him leave there. He expected him not to be that naive. Yi knew he wouldn't keep his promise. He pressed a button. A bright light came out from the blocks of cash, then he used a shadow jaunt. The money exploded. The area was filled with smoke. Bao asked where he ran off to. Suddenly, Yi appeared behind him. He evaded his dagger. Then he used a fireball. He wouldn't be defeated with those little sneak attack tricks. Yi asked him if he was not educated not to play with fire when the air was full of dust. Gust of wind blew. And another explosion happened. Siyin got worried for Yi, when suddenly the rope was cut, and she was falling. She braced herself for the impact, but nothing happened. When she opened her eyes, she found himself on her arms while they rode the shadow wyvern. Bao was surprised to see a flying dragon heading towards an entrance to the alternate dimension. He realized that the kid has quite a few tricks up his sleeve. Bao looked forward to catching him and owning everything, but his underling reported that more than half of their brothers were injured. He ordered everyone who can still move to chase after them and not let them get away. They entered the alternate dimension too. Yi entered the sky-reaching tower. Siyin panicked that the Black Panther gang had broken in. He replied that it was fine. He grabbed the chance to let those thugs help him solve a little problem. He told her to hide with the shadow wyvern. She was hesitant at first, but he assured her that it's fine. Qingtian realized that Yi left the entrance open on purpose to use them to help him get through the second level. Yi confirmed that and reasoned that he never said to clear the second level alone. He acknowledged how he's good at finding loopholes. Yi responded that the reward for the second level was too tempting. An armor that can defend against an A-rank attack was a good thing. Eventually, he got attacked with fire. He noticed how those guys were being cautious. They told him that he had nowhere to run now, but there was no reason for him to run. He already saved Siyin, so now it was already a good time to deal with them. Bao laughed at him, thinking he had gone mad. He told his men not to be scared since he's just alone. They would take care of him first, and then they'll find Siyin. And once they're done, he promised them to get a taste of the eldest young miss of the Qin family. He admits that he was no match for them in numbers, but as for anything else, it was hard to say. He called everyone to come out and greet their guests. When the doors opened, several eyes started to show up, and the Lava Minotaur, Thunder Serpent King, Hydro Turtle, and others came out. He welcomed and thanked them for accompanying him to the challenge. The Black Panther gang was caught off guard. The monsters charged at them. Bao made a fireball with his fist and unleashed an enormous fireball towards the monsters. Some monsters got caught up in it. The fire continued to travel to Yi. Yi saw that he used his ultimate move. He used Shadow Morph and formed it into a hammer. He wanted to make sure that Bao's hatred was maxed out. He hit the fireball to make it explode. The force was too strong. He realized that he can't just underestimate B-rank attacks. The fire scattered and showered at the monsters. It didn't bother Bao, though. Given Yi's current state, he doubted that he could block more attacks. Yi replied that one is all he needed, and if he doesn't believe him, he urges him to look around. The monsters had surrounded Bao. Bao got cautious. Yi told him to play with them first while he ran off. He got annoyed that he got tricked by that brat again. He clenched his fist while yelling at the beasts to get away. The monster burned when it got hit by him. He was so annoyed at Yi. His veins in the forehead bulged while screaming that he'd tore him into pieces. Meanwhile, at the core area of the second level, Yi wanted assurance from Qingtian that he wasn't lying again. He questioned if there was really an armor ahead that could resist an A-rank attack. Qingtian had no reason to lie and confirmed that it was the reward for clearing the second level. Suddenly, something appeared. The creature knelt in front of them. It was the steward Jimming of the second level. Qingtian requested Yi to help him bury the steward after the Black Panther matter was settled. He agreed to it. Qingtian thanked him, and then briefly stayed silent as he watched the steward. After that, he led the way to the armor. But something caught Yi's attention again. Another creature appeared in front of them. It was the shadow armor that Qingtian mentioned. He commented that it wasn't as ugly as he imagined. Qingtian thinks it's a pity that the brat was only at Shadow Enhancement Tier 2. But even if he was on Tier 3, facing armor that can resist A-rank attacks was difficult. Yi noticed the weird behavior, so he asked what was wrong. Qingtian replied he's fine and encouraged him to get the reward. Yi noticed how Qingtian was getting more emotional by the day. The armor slightly moved, then it grabbed Yi by the neck. Then the armor expressed that it had been so many years, so he never thought the master would come back. The armor was a hetero-mopper in soul form, and it used a B-rank skill shadow enhancement tier 2, soul refinement. Yi asked what was going on. Qingtian knew it was the steward inside the armor. The armor angrily expressed how it never thought the once exalted master would then have to parasitically inhabit the body of a C-rank being. Qingtian ordered him to stop choking Yi, but the armor was offended that he commanded him. Through gritted teeth, it questioned what rights he had to command him when his soul sleeps in the armor to await his return and help him prolong his life, and yet he failed him. Qingtian returned only as a remnant soul, so he had no choice but to refine him. That way he can break through to Shadow Enhancement Tier 3 and use Domain ability to make the armor of the vessel for his soul. Qingtian screamed as he slowly fades. Yi asked Qingtian if he could beat that guy if he handed over control of his body to him. Qingtian asked if he's not afraid to take the opportunity to completely seize control of his body. He couldn't believe that he could still joke despite their situation. If he had the ability to take full control, he wouldn't have given the body back to him in the first place. Qingtian scoffed, and they did it. Yi's eyes had changed, and he erupted with power, blasting away the armor. But the armor told him that with only a remnant of his soul, he only has an A-rank strength, so there's no need for a pointless struggle. He replied that even if he was only A-rank, it was enough to deal with him. Yi entered an entropic or parasitic state, but A-rank skill cannot be used in a parasitic state. The armor recognized his use of shadow domain. Qingtian, in the body of Yi, approached him while exuding black mist from his body. Then the armor deduced that it was just a second-tier bluff. He didn't expect that Qingtian would hold something in reserve and not teach him how to use shadow skills completely. Qingtian then used Shadow Morph, Infinite Sword Array. But it didn't matter to the armor that he held back one skill, because he knew that the body can't handle a third-tier skill after all. Qingtian used a Shadow Jaunt and appeared behind it when he struck him. He had no idea what skill that was. Qingtian struck him, but he defended using his greatsword. He was confident because he knew he wouldn't be able to maintain that state for long. Qingtian asked Yi if he could still hold on. Yi replied that he's fine. The armor smirked and stated that attacks of that level can't even break the armor's defense. Qingtian jumped. His plan was to force him out. The armor blocked the fist using his sword. They stayed in their combat stance for a brief moment, until the sword broke in half. Qingtian punched him again, but he blocked it using his forearms. Just a little more and Qingtian would have succeeded. The soul was almost separated from the body, but he felt a pang of pain. Yi responded that he's fine, but he knew that if they kept fighting, Yi's soul and body would be burned and destroyed by the overloaded energy. The armor mocked them for missing the opportunity and called him ridiculous. Qingtian clicked his tongue. Then, the armor was about to punch him. Qingtian got blasted away from Yi's body. Qingtian was surprised. The armor got him where he wanted. He was restrained. He expressed that he didn't expect that one day he would be bitten back by a dog he raised. The armor was exhilarated that he could finally come back to life. Meanwhile, Yi was down on his knee. He looked exhausted, but he was still worried for Qingtian. The armor approached him. Qingtian told him to run. But Yi charges at the armor in an attempt to free him. It was a touching gesture. One was worried about the other's soul being burned and didn't dare to use his full power, and the other was clearly an ant, yet he still dares to attack the armor. The armor blasted Yi away. The impact made him cough blood. Qingtian told him that he's just a C-rank, so he should stop being an eyesore and get lost. Yi replied that from the very beginning, he treated him like a slave, and made him fight other worlders, and forced him to level up. Every step of the way until then, he made him listen to him. So now, whether he goes or not, would be his decision. He charges at the armor again. Yi had previously absorbed the surrounding shadow energy and forcibly killed the blood leopard, so this time, he's confident that he could help him eliminate the traitor. The armor challenged him on how long his body would hold out. Qingtian called him a fool. It looked like he was eager to make his body explode. He yelled that it was none of their business. He gathered his strength and charged again, but his body cracked. He saw it falling apart. Slowly, it vanishes in the air. The armor commented that the creature Qingtian chose was adorable because of its suicide attempt. Qingtian had also slowly vanished. The armor told him not to struggle anymore, so he would become a good nourishment for him. He happily absorbed him. It made him laugh, but unexpectedly, a shadow was casted around him. He was confused about what was going on. He recognized it to be eternal night. It could have been caused by the eternal domain. He couldn't believe it since he hasn't even finished refining Qingtian, which led him to think that it wasn't made by him. To his surprise, someone spoke behind him. It was Yi. And just as he said earlier, the armor would be the one eliminated. Out of instinct, he immediately slashed him, but to his surprise, nothing happened. Yi's stats showed that he's a human race in C rank with a Shadow Enhancement Tier 3, and his skills were Ultimate Shadow Eye, Shadow Morph, Shadow Jaunt, and Shadow Domain. Shadow Domain allows the user to freely alter the form of themselves and their shadow energy within the domain, greatly boosting all shadow-based abilities while reducing their consumption. All souls of targets slain within the domain were converted into shadow energy. The armor got nervous seeing that he reached the 3rd tier. Yi realized where the shadow domain's power comes from: the souls. No wonder the armor was terrified of its strength. He's curious what the soul would do without the armor. He released a concentrated orb of power at him. It rained down on him like a comet. The armor jumped to escape it. Suddenly, Yi appeared behind him in an attempt to force him out of the armor. Yi punched him on his back, and he crashed on the ground with a powerful impact. The armor reasoned that it didn't matter if he became a 3rd tier because he was still at C rank, and the armor can withstand even A rank attacks. Yi grinned as he decided to change his approach since he couldn't break it from the outside. He charged at him again. The armor noticed how reckless he was, and tried to punch him, but his punch just passed through him. Yi's body was like air, so he wasn't hit. Then Yi approached him closer, and had his shadow penetrate the armor, making the soul inside scream loudly. He tried to rip it away from the armor. Eventually, the soul was thrown in the air. It was pushed out, and Yi was able to grab the armor. He learned why it was hiding there. Apparently, the armor absorbs shadow energy to offset the damage to the soul. The steward whose soul was in the armor knew that dragging it out would only make him weaker. But he already has the Qingtian in his hand. He flew upwards. But of course, Yi wouldn't give him the chance to escape. He chained him. But the steward told Yi that since Qingtian was wrapped in his soul, if he attacks, he'll be hurt too. Yi reminded him that souls were shadow energy, and he just lost his armor's protection. Yi ripped his body apart and Qingtian was freed. Qingtian watched the situation, as Yi absorbs the soul to become his nourishment. Qingtian told the soul that he underestimated the human's hunger for power. He replied that they shouldn't be cocky, because once the human ascends quickly by devouring him, Qingtian wouldn't be spared, as no living being can withstand the test of desire. After Yi absorbed him, he screamed loudly. His body was filled with power that it even made the ground cave in. Qingtian was caught off guard. Yi leveled up to B rank. Then, he called Qingtian, and told him it was his turn. Qingtian called Yi's name. Yi smiled, and connected with him. While he also collected the armor, he shared that he now realized what the steward meant about continuing life. He placed the armor in Qingtian's body. He knew he used his own domain ability to seal his soul inside the armor, and now the hunk of metal had become his new body. So, Qingtian became an A rank with Shadow Enhancement skill, and Ultimate Shadow Eye, Shadow Morph, Shadow Jaunt, Shadow Domain, and Shadow Clone. Qingtian couldn't believe it. He commented how Qingtian was so dark and grimy, and absorbing him might cause him diarrhea. And also, the armor was huge and ugly, so he doesn't feel like wearing it. He settled on him, just returning the favor. Meanwhile, on the 2nd floor, a gigantic snake wrapped its body around Bao's underling. He begged him to save him. Bao told him to hang in there because he'll be ending his suffering at once. He burned the snake along with the man. After that, he commented that a useless piece of trash like that wasn't worth saving. He was slightly surprised when he heard Yi, as what Yi was expecting of a B rank. Those beasts weren't enough to wear him down. Just the sight of him made Bao so angry. He attacked him with a flaming fist. But Qingtian glared at him, and just his presence alone blasted him away. Bao immediately recognized that he was an A rank. He wasn't in a good position. Dealing with Yi alone was one thing, but now an A rank showed up. Yi commented that with Qingtian stepping in, it had become plain bullying. He stretched his arm and expressed that the guy of that level was a perfect warm-up for him. Bao didn't like that he's using him as a warm-up. He thinks that if he could just manage to get a hold of Yi, he would have a fighting chance. Yi used a shadow domain. He commented that all those pointless mystery and flashy tricks won't make up for the fact that he's a D rank. Yi asked him who said he was still a D rank. He was caught off guard. The next thing he knew, he was punched in the stomach. Then Yi appeared behind him. He was furious that Yi was looking down at him. Yi watched him intently, and blocked his fist with his. It caused an explosion. Bao realized he's now B rank. He wondered how he got to B rank so fast. Yi replied that he had to thank him for pushing him every step of the way. Bao didn't care if he was a B rank. He still charges at him, because he was confident in his strength. He elbowed him and Yi blocked it using his forearms. Qingtian informed Yi that inside the shadow domain, he doesn't need to use his own energy. Instead, he could command the energy around him and turn their power against them. It is the true essence of the shadow. Yi understood it. He gave a side comment that he's not used to Qingtian being such a serious teacher. Bao noticed that he was learning as they went, like he was some kind of a genius. He released his power towards him and told him to die, and released several fireballs towards him. He tried to command the surrounding energy and made it his own. He was able to create a barrier which blocked the flames. That surprised Bao. Yi admitted that the feeling was addicting. He released a condensed power in Bao's way. He evaded it at the last minute. Then Yi released some more. Bao charges at him while mocking him for missing. Yi corrected him that he didn't, and certainly all the dodging had made his brain a mess, because his previous move was just to help line up his face to his fist. Bao groaned in pain. He wondered how that was possible. The kid kept using skills, and yet his power wasn't fading. Instead, it was getting stronger. Yi asked him if that was all he got, and expressed that he was disappointed. He planned to end their little game. Bao was determined to take him down with him. Yi harnessed the shadow, and in a single step he closed the distance between them and slashed him. Bao's arm was cut off. His eyes widened in shock as the arm fell in front of him. He fell on his knees and gritted his teeth in anger. Then Yi pointed the blade at the back of his head. Then he dared Yi to kill him. But Yi replied that death was just letting him off too easily. At that moment, Bao was worth more to him alive than dead. Qingtian asked Yi why he kept Bao alive. He did that to get more information about Shihao. Bao responded that he'd chosen death before he told him anything. Yi knew that, but Xiaosheng had his ways of making people talk. Upon hearing Xiaosheng's name, Bao begged to be freed. He even threatened him, so Yi covered his mouth to shut him up. Then he told him that even if Shihai doesn't come looking for him, he'd come for him instead. Qingtian replied that he could take care of the A rank from the NG group as his way of returning the favor to him. But Yi wanted to confirm first if Ning Donghao was involved before they made a move. In addition, he wanted to handle revenge on his own. Meanwhile, under the rain, the military was stocking up some trucks. Someone was told to wait, and General Hong will be joining them shortly. A man talked to a bald man whom he called City Lord and asked if he had any inside info since they had been seeing troops mobilized all over the city. The City Lord replied that he doesn't know, but by the looks of it, something big must be happening. Then he asked Xiaosheng if he knew anything. At that time, Xiaosheng was on the phone receiving a report that Xiyin was kidnapped by the Black Panther. She was unharmed, and the guy had been dealt with. It made him furious. Then he replied to the question saying that he had no idea about military affairs. He approached Dong Hao and told him that if he can't keep his dogs on a leash, he'd be happy to teach them some discipline. Dong Hao asked what he's trying to say. He replied that he would wish he wasn't involved, otherwise he'd take care of them both at once. They both exuded energy as they tried to intimidate each other. Dong Hao responded that Xiaosheng had been overestimating himself. Xiaosheng challenged him to put it into a test. Someone entered and expressed that seeing them fired up puts his mind at ease. But he also told them to save the energy for where it counts, especially when Haicheng might be on the brink of major disaster. This red-haired man was Hong Hai, a supreme military commander of the 3rd Defense Zone under the United Government. They sat as they discussed a serious matter. Hai told his white-haired assistant to explain the situation. The man was aware that everyone present became an A rank by fighting in the battle against the creatures from the level 2 dimension channel 10 years ago. With that, they shouldn't be reminded of the destructive power of the A rank and S rank creatures from that channel. They still don't know why the level 2 channel suddenly appeared for a moment and then vanished. However, they have been consistently monitoring the related radiation fluctuations all these years. 5 years ago, those fluctuations reappeared. The frequency and intensity have been increasing steadily, and in the last 3 months, 5 spikes have been detected nearly as strong as the ones from 10 years ago. The 3 gentlemen were alarmed. The City Lord could already tell why General Hong called them. Hong told them that it meant that it was highly likely that Haicheng was about to witness the appearance of a level 2 dimensional channel. Concurrently, the shadow bipedal creatures were heading to a portal. He wanted all of them to go back and prepare. If a level 2 channel truly appears, it would be a catastrophe for Haicheng. Although the military had begun their own preparations, he hoped that when the time comes, the 3 of them can set aside their differences and face the crisis together. Xiaosheng replied that he had no problem with that as long as certain people stopped their little schemes behind his back. Then he glanced at Dong Hao. Hong also glanced at Dong Hao while saying that they're in critical times, and if anyone still dares to stir up trouble for personal gain, he won't hesitate to use extreme measures. Then he invited Xiaosheng to ride with him so they could talk about the recent situation on the way. Dong Hao and the City Lord were left there. The city lord commented on how Hong doesn't even bother to pretend anymore. He made it clear that Xiao Shang was one of the military's men. And with Xiao Shang being furious with Dong Hao, he could tell it was because of the Black Panther gang, so he suggested that he lay low for a while. Dong Hao had no idea what it had to do with him. The city lord replied that it would be good that it doesn't. Then he suggested he checks the news. Back at their office, he was told to watch the news. Shi Hao was on the phone with Dong Hao. Dong Hao told him that normally he would turn a blind eye to the things he's up to with the Black Panther gang. But the news reported that the notorious criminal organization, Black Panther Gang, had attempted to kidnap the heir of the Chin Group. The hostage has been successfully rescued, but the leader of the Black Panther Gang and other core members were on the run. Dong Hao hoped that Shi Hao wasn't involved in that. Shi Hao replied that he won't do anything without his direct orders. Dong Hao told him to get Xian's forgiveness, even if it meant to get on his knees or kill himself. He also wanted him to cut all his ties with the Black Panther Gang, otherwise he won't have his back. Shi Hao replied yes. But after that call, he expressed his anger with that moron Bao. That afternoon, Xiyin and Yi visited Ao in the hospital. Xiyin was worried, but Yi assured her that the doctors are doing everything they can. Then Shi Hao showed up. He expressed his relief that Xiyin was unharmed. He never thought that the bastard Bao would dare to do something like this. It just showed that he had a death wish. Yi was cautious, and at the same time intrigued about what he's doing there. He asked if he meant that he had no idea about what the Bao had done. Shi Hao confidently replied yes, since his relationship with them was strictly business, but he assured them that from that day on, the NG group will sever all ties with them and even assist them in hunting down the remnants of the gang. But Yi was suspicious of their intentions. He asked if it means they're turning over a new leaf or sacrificing a pawn to save the king. Shi Hao warned him to stop. He told him that the things he stole from the Black Panther were enough for him to live comfortably for the rest of his life. He asked him if he really wished to fight him to death. Yi responded that those things were just interests. The principle he came to collect was his life. Shi Hao asked Xiying if her family feels the same way. She smiled and told him to take a guess. He simply replied that they had nothing to talk about. He warned them that he's part of the NG group, and without any proof, they can't touch him. Yi replied that he should pray that Bao and his men would never surface otherwise. They'll become his worst nightmare. After that, he called a researcher and ordered to inject the remaining dregs of the Black Panther gang with God's blood. They were in a facility where the patients were strapped on the bed and the doctors were checking them out. But after the call, the doctors took the injection. The patient got scared and yelled at them that they're from Black Panther gang, but the doctor injected him with the drug. And in an instant, the patient's eyes changed and his veins bulged. He groaned from the pain. The extreme shaking of his body accidentally unbuckled the straps. They roared loudly from the sensations they're feeling. At that point, they all looked like zombies. Then Shi Hao received a call. It made him look forward to the headlines tomorrow. He expects something like arrogant teen faces vicious retaliation after targeting Black Panther gang, or it could be Black Panther gang members go berserk after abusing unknown drugs.
Thank you all for watching. Please watch this next Giga Chad video, and I'll see you guys next time. Also, support the channel by joining the Summon Club membership. You can also support by just liking the video and being awesome.